Good evening. So we are here for our budget workshop. So it is not an official meeting. However, I still like to open with the Pledge of Allegiance. So please join me. All right. Hi, Christy. All right. So remember, when you're talking this evening, make sure you're up close and personal with our microphone friends. Our owl did not work for us last week. So, and are we turning it over to you, Marco, or Sam?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being here this evening. We're going to start with our second installment of our budget workshop and budget process this evening, which is awesome. I really appreciate everyone's participation and input last week. That went very well. Lots of great questions. And so we have more, obviously, to share with you moving forward. Just a point of not order, but as far as format is concerned, last week we projected the presentation behind me. It was really not helpful in some ways, so it is still being projected online, just so that people know that and can see it. Even for those of you guys that have laptops, if you wanted to take a look at it, those documents have been shared with you along with it being on YouTube. So if you wanted to follow along, you could see it there too.
I'm hearing we do not have audio online. We do.
Supposedly it's there, but people are having to turn their TVs way up to hear it.
Okay. Thank you. She's always watching.
I mean, I appreciate it. Absolutely. Otherwise, we could be talking and there'd be nobody. Yeah, right. Exactly. Nobody be able to hear us. Shall I continue? Do you want me to keep rolling, or do you want me to wait a moment? I can wait a minute. It's not a problem whatsoever. Okay. All right. Looks like Stephanie gave us the thumbs up. So as I was saying about the presentation itself, it is viewable online, and then there are handouts if you need them. With that being said, the next slide shows our discussion points for this evening, and again, the format will be that we're reviewing our line by lines after each article or cost center. And so this evening we'll be taking a look at some data requests from a last meeting, 225-26. And then again, we'll be looking at our articles, cost centers 3 through 7 this evening. So lots to get to.
That's ambitious.
Oh, we'll get through it. No problem whatsoever. We got through 1 and 2. That went well. It was great. All right, so next slide just states that we have data requests for 225-26, and then the following slide are the specific data requests that were asked for, and that is slide 4. If you take a look, the information that was requested and shared with the board were special ed data, salary and benefit totals by cost center, share center usage data, and middle school field hockey information. So since those documents were recently uploaded, we're happy to review each one of those if need be and answer any questions that people may have, or we can continue on, and some of these will come up naturally in the cost centers. Just one thing that I do want to make sure that you're aware of in regards to those data requests, Scott had asked me about special ed data, so that's why there's an additional one there. It wasn't noted necessarily in the board meeting itself that we had, the workshop meeting last week, but he just had some additional questions, so we included that for you guys to review, and that was a comparison of percentages of our students or our school districts. Go ahead, Matt.
Sorry to interrupt, Marco. Are people at home supposed to be able to see the slide right now?
They should see it on YouTube. That's correct.
Okay. Apparently it's just you and Nicole on TV on YouTube.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, we'll keep it rolling. I appreciate it. We'll try to remedy that. But thank you, Matt, for letting us know so that we can make sure that it's viewable for everyone. Just as I'm sorry. I'll do that and then I'll be quiet. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that they are all. Are they? Is that presentation on the website or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
It will be in the morning. Yep. Thank you. Yeah. So just with that being said, again, the special ed data is a comparison between the percentage of students that are identified as special education students in our district in comparison to area districts, just so that there's a comparison, because there was a question about, is our percentage higher than others, the state average, so on and so forth. So that information's there for you to review. Okay. So with that being said, if anybody would like to review some of those data requests, we can do that now. Or, as I said, we can continue on, and some of these things will naturally come up.
Will they though? Salary won't.
Yeah, I said some of them will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you want to touch upon the ones that won't?
Sure.
I know we recently received it, so I have not had a chance.
Yeah,
to review.
I'm happy to do that. That's not a problem whatsoever.
Yeah, so let's do the ones that won't come up naturally.
Sure.
And then, do the
And then
other
we can
ones.
wait for the others.
Yeah.
Yep. So there are 3 that will, well, I guess we probably should review those 3 because you're right, they won't come up. The middle school field hockey will. So just special ed data, I did just explain that to you guys. So if you want to take a look at that, you're more than welcome to do. Sam's going to punch that up for me real quick, and just so I can look at it. Thanks. Just so, and I'll just read this so that people have the information, okay, or they can hear me explain it. So just the state average percentage of students who are identified as special ed students is 21%. RSU 4 is at 21.9%, and that's without our pre-K cohort. With our pre-K cohort, we're at 23.8%. RSU 2, which is right next door to us, is 23.3. This does not include a pre-K cohort, and I think that you guys know the reason for that is because districts are slowly rolling that programming into their school districts. We're a bit of ahead of the game in taking on our pre-K students. MSAD 75, that's Topsom, so that's 22.9%, and that's with a pre-K cohort. And then Lisbon is 20.8%, and it does not include the pre-K cohort at this time. Some other information that Justin provided, again, he's our special ed director, for you guys to take into consideration, especially when we're talking about identifying students, are the following things. So that's okay, no problem. So we do have a new school psychologist who assists with developing consistency in relation to eligibility. And so this is a position that we, in the past, have contracted with. This is somebody who is now on staff, who have heard a lot of positive feedback about and speaking with our teachers directly and having conversations of how their students are participating in class or how they're performing in class. And that just gives a much richer profile, if you will, of the student when the psychologist is doing their work. And that helps with the identification process. Staff will continue to be training on eligibility process and criteria. They're working on consistency regarding academic evaluations. They're involving our board-certified behavior analysts prior to referral to help potential avoid a referral to special education by implementing behavior plans prior to the referral process, and implementing speech interventions through the RTI, or response to intervention model, before a referral is made to address student challenges related to speech and language. So there's a fair amount of information there, obviously, from my, I would say, untrained eye to a certain extent with special education services. We're comparable, to the districts that are outlined there and the state average. And the initiatives that Justin has spearheaded have been excellent in ensuring that our process is up to date and well thought through. Any questions in regards to that document, guys? Go ahead, Christy. You got to turn her on. Yep.
Just a clarifying question. So when you say pre-K, you're talking about pre-K with the expansion of the 3-year-olds.
Not
with the
4-year-olds. With the 4-year-olds currently.
4-years.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I think for the public that haven't been listening to our meetings, they may just think it's our general pre-K program.
That's
so
correct.
I think it's important to just make that determination.
Yeah, I really appreciate you bringing it up. So just for those people who are just tuning in, we have partnered with the state and joining cohort 3 and that means that we are working with child development services to have services done at our schools. These services, at times when they were done through CDS, were not always easily accessible to kids. And so it does a couple of different things. It allows for us to work with those kids who need that early intervention from the get-go, to help support them in their transition to public school. It also helps in identifying special ed students so that we can better budget for those costs. So across the board, it is a great program, and it's currently 100% paid for by the state, which is really important to note. Mr. Gayton, don't forget your microphone there, sir.
So, Marco, I know in the past we've had discussions about pre-K special ed, and by getting to those pre-K students earlier, will that help our special ed numbers lessen in the future?
I mean, that would be the hope,
Right.
Robbie. I don't know, obviously, because it's so soon in the process.
But like in speech or,
of course, right?
Something like that, they'll
Right.
be getting help earlier.
That's right. And that's the hope, right? Is that any early intervention that we provide, and again, we have a excellent staff that's providing those services, is to benefit, those kiddos, and so that they don't have to continue with special education services.
Right.
That's correct, Robbie.
Okay.
Any other questions in regards to that? Okay. We'll move on to the next one. I'm going to turn it over to Sam, if that's okay with you, to just talk about, this was Robbie's request in regards to salary and benefit totals by cost center.
Yeah, so last time that we met, Robbie had requested that we take a look at the budget totals by cost center that really just represents our staff or our people. So I pulled that together for each of the cost centers. So you'll see that some, when you get this document, and if you just wait patiently for a minute, I'm having Shelley print you all copies in case you didn't bring your laptop tonight or you're looking on your phone, which is not ideal when you're looking at so many small figures. So she'll have those printed for you in just a moment. But for future reference, all of the data requests will be housed in the budget workshop folder for tonight, which will be live tomorrow and accessible, but all of you on the board have access tonight. So what you're looking at with this document is year over year, so FY27 proposed compared to FY26 budgeted for salary and related benefits for staff by cost center, so by regular instruction and special education, which we covered the last time we met, and then career and tech ed, other instruction, staff and student support, all the way through the general fund. So you'll see, the percent difference year over year for each of those, and you'll kind of note the reductions that we've talked about are places where the percent increase is not as high as you would normally expect if there's a staff reduction there. And so that's just food for thought or, food for conversation as you continue to make deliberations during the budget process.
Yeah, the reason why I wanted to see those numbers because, the reason why I wanted to see those numbers is because I believed that they were going to be lower than the percent, especially with the reductions in force that we have and the work that we've done on the budget so far, compared to what you hear out in the public that, we're giving 5% raises, 6% raises, 8% raises. And you look at just the salary line, there's a lot of stuff that goes into, especially cost center one, besides salary. But people see that increased number, and they think it all goes to salary, and it doesn't.
Okay, we'll go on to the next data request, which was the Share Center usage data. And again, just for those of you guys that aren't aware, the Share Center is, or was, an organization that provided I would say furniture and other goods that if you buy into their programming through a membership fee, you can utilize what they have there. So if, for instance, we needed a chair, something along those lines, and didn't want to pay retail for it because we have this membership, we could go in and select an item that might be there. And so mostly office supplies that were there. And so there was a request to find out what the usage has been amongst our schools who are members, and maybe some of the items that they've procured from the Share Center. So Sam's got that info. If you don't mind, Sam, did you want to just touch base?
Not at all. So the document covers our 2 schools that have active memberships to Share Center this year and reflects this year's usage or purchases. So the middle school was less anecdotal and just listed the things that by either grade level or department were were gathered from the Share Center using that membership. So it's grade 5, 6, 7. There's a section about what was brought for students, gifted and talented staff, and special ed staff at the middle school. And then the 3rd page is more anecdotal from Carrie Ricker. So just feedback from staff about what they typically bring home or what they've been able to procure from that organization when they make trips out. So those are our 2 schools that had active membership. So that was the feedback that we could get at this point. Again, noting that Share Center is closing their doors this month, but we are actively looking at replacements for that type of service for our staff.
I particularly like the random doodads. I like it. It's actually quite a bit here, so this is good to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question came from do we continue to have a membership program like that, or do we we use the money elsewhere? And I think there were a couple other organizations out there that were named that could be potential memberships that we would buy into and then be able to obviously continue with this.
Yeah, I also think that this would be good to maintain or to have available to the public because they're always asking, what do you need, what do you want?
Yeah.
And especially if we can't get a Share Center or can't get into one this year, that'll be helpful. It's a nice list.
Yeah, appreciate that. It's good.
Yeah, so thank you to the staff who gave us that information pretty quickly.
Excellent. Just coming around are those documents so that you can look at them in a little bit bigger font. There you are. And then, as I said, the board data requests for middle school field hockey, we'll get to that one in just a moment with Cost Center 4, I believe. Excuse me? Oh, thanks. There you go. Sorry about that.
That's okay. There's more.
Jeez. All right, excellent. All right, moving on to slide number 5. That's the title page for cost centers 3 through 7, and and then slide number 6, which is our article or cost center number 3, which is career and technical education. This is LRTC in particular, and there's not a whole lot just to explain in regards to LRTC and this cost center. If you go to slide number 7, you can see the cost for last fiscal year and the cost for this fiscal year. There's an increase of just above $5,000. In our latest advisory meeting at LRTC, part of the increase has to do with a pretty exciting new program that's coming on board, and that's landscaping that will be offered at every little high school. Obviously, our students will have access to that program. We'll have seats for it. But there's a fair amount of equipment that goes along with that. I mean, they're talking about bobcats and all kinds of stuff, so it's not cheap, that's for sure. So that's for, the increase there. I think, as you guys know, this is a well-utilized program for our high school students. We currently have 91 students participating at LRTC in some way, shape, or form, which is incredible. And it's a wonderful opportunity for our students to get a fair amount of career, and college readiness, through their programming. And as a reminder, you do have a breakdown of the of programming for LRTC and participation numbers. So just don't forget that you have that if you're curious about how many kids are in automotive versus how many kids are in plumbing or nursing assistants. Just know that it's there. It's an excellent program, and for the amount of money that we're paying, it's excellent. And I think about, like I said, 91. And I'm sorry, Mel, I'm going to put you on the spot. Mel Gagnon, Director of Guidance at the high school. How many slots are we allotted each year? 56? Nice. I remember. That's good. 56. So we are given 56 slots, right? Mel is a great card player, so they trade spots, right, with each other. And so, she may have 4 kids for automotives, but she doesn't need business seats, so she's able to trade with the other guidance counselors. And like I said, we're able to get 91 kids when we have allotted 56. So we're spending money for 56, and we're getting 91 kids into a program. So just as information for you, okay?
Where is that in the folder?
So that was a data request that we had prepared for you prior to last meeting. So it would be in the 225 folder, as well as the cost sharing formula for LRTC. That's in there as well. So if you want to see how they come up with this figure that they share with us this year and last year to contribute on behalf of RSU 4.
Mm-hmm. And then as we did in last week, there is a line item for it. And so, Sam, do you mind reviewing the line item for Cost Center 3?
Yeah, so this is the first of several budget reports that we'll look at together, the shortest, which is exciting. So you're looking at your budget reports. The very first one should say Cost Center 3, Career and Technical Education at the top. And as Marco noted, there's only one expense line in this cost center. So this is LRTC tuition. You'll notice that prior to this current year, it was zeroed out. So this current fiscal year is the first year that we've had to pay in on behalf of RSU 4. It's always been a zero cost center prior to that. And this has just come after the committee had met and reviewed the fact that Lewiston had been taking the excess cost, just like our general fund. The state tells us this is about how much it should cost to run your programming, but we always spend more than that, just like every other district in the state of Maine. LRTC is the same. So Lewiston had been taking that on the nose, and Lewiston taxpayers had been paying that excess on behalf of the programming. So the cost sharing formula was agreed to. This board unanimously voted to support that last year. That's an annual agreement that is reviewed by that committee. And as Marco noted, the increase of just over $5,000 is primarily related to the new landscaping program that will be offered through LRTC, but also to an increase in utilities that they have over there in Lewiston for the physical space that LRTC is housed in. So that is, I didn't put numbers on this report because there's only one, so that's the only one, but you'll see zero all the way through FY25. Last year was 8,218, and the increase of just over 5,000 for our tuition.
Great. Thank you very much, Sam.
Marco,
Yes, sir.
is there any plan in the future to grow our own technical program?
Yeah, Robbie, we're in talks right now with LRTC. I mean, that is the plan moving forward, right? So our industrial arts program, right, at the high school, and I've kind of covered this before, there's a specific certification that's held for high school-based industrial arts programs. It's a 700, what they call a 700 certification. That 700 certification is not offered, in a program anywhere in the state of Maine, and it's extremely difficult to get even outside of the state. With that being said, our current industrial arts teacher, Bill Clark, is going to be retiring this year. And, obviously we appreciate his and all the other industrial arts teachers that we've had through the time at Oak Hill. And so at that point in time, we're going to be in a transition phase. And I say that in the sense that we'll be looking to have industrial arts at the high school next year as is, but with the intent the year after for it to become under the umbrella of CTE and Lewiston Regional Technical Center. And the benefit to that is that there can be a significant investment into our programming there, and I mean that in the sense of the equipment, the instructor, there was one other piece of that. Oh, and the programs that would be offered, there'd be one a quarter, and so it would be electrical. Let's see if I can get these right. Electrical, plumbing, electrical, woodworking, small engine repair, welding. Those are the 4 in one each quarter. And so that's where we're looking to, like, when we say grow our own, we would be able to take in, under that umbrella of CTE, other students from other schools that send their kids to LRTC, and they would get what's called like the trades cluster. That's like an exploratory program.
Yeah, sure, like an omnibus course.
You got it. Yeah, you got it. So, I mean, there's a fair amount there that, is in the works. Obviously we need to find the right person for the program, but, I have great hopes for that just because it would be a huge benefit to us moving forward. And keeping a program, you know what I mean? And more than anything else.
Most definitely. I guess my thought would be if we could have something like that where, we go to like a local plumbing shop and they could come in and bring stuff in and, give kids kind of like a feel of what they might like to do, or an electrical shop or masonry. I mean, we have a lot of talent in the community as far as that goes. That we could, bring in like guest speakers and the kids could learn, even if it was just a week, they would take a week and go on one trade. And it would be like, yeah, maybe I do like this. Maybe I do want to get a job.
Right, like almost like, a week of experience, and each day there's somebody different that's coming in to talk to them about something. Yeah, no, it's a great idea, Robbie. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks for that. Any other questions in regards to LRTC or Cost Center 3? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to slide number 8. This is article or Cost Center 4, other instruction. And then we'll move to slide number 9. And just a little bit of a highlight here. Cost Center 4, other instruction includes the following. High school and middle school athletic directors, stipend for assistant to the athletic director, stipends for athletics fall, winter, spring, summer school staffing, and that's not ESY. ESY is extended school year services for special education students, so that's not included here. Vacation school staffing, and co-curricular activities. Just for those of you guys that aren't familiar with vacation school is offered at the high school during vacations for students to come in and get their work caught up with, and there are teachers there to help support them in that. Slide number 10 is other expenditures within Cost Center 4 to keep in mind are game day workers, athletic trainer, supplies and uniforms, equipment, repairs and maintenance, services, which include officials, security, and porta potties. And slide number 11, some notes here in regards to Cost Center 4. We have our PFML premiums for all staff and stipends, middle school field hockey consideration, routine field maintenance moved to Cost Center 9, just so that you guys are aware of that. We have a safety repair project that we're looking at doing for the football field, planned for a quarter of it to be done in fiscal year, or be paid out of fiscal year 26 and 3/4 out of fiscal year 27. We have a reduction of 1 session of vacation school, and we're pursuing Title I reallocation grant for summer programming. And so slide number 12 will just give you the increases and decreases there. So you can see that we're down roughly, $79,000 in that cost center. So with that, go ahead.
What was the cost? Is that $79,000 what the field maintenance was?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot. Some of it, right? Not all of it, but some of it. Yep. Yes. And then, given the consideration of middle school field hockey, Brian Daniels, our athletic director at the middle school, did prepare a budget summary document for you guys to review. We do have that. He's here and happy to run us through that if you would like. And then, I think it would be appropriate at that time, Nicole, for public comment, if that makes sense. She's nodding her head.
Yes.
She's ready to go. All right. Is everybody okay with that? Yeah. Thanks. Does everybody have the budget summary information? Just want to make sure that you got it there. That's all. Hold on one second, and then we'll go line by line after this, guys. Hold on one second. Let me just make sure I have my. Yep. Thanks, Sam. All right, Brian. When you're ready, go for it, there, bud.
All right. Good. Can you hear me? All right. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for taking a moment to chat about some middle school field hockey. So this request had come up last year. There was some discussion on it. Brought up again at the last board meeting, so I just kind of provided a summary overview of what it would look like, just to give you some historical context. So field hockey's been traditionally through the rec department for the last X amount of years.
Stay close to the mic, Brian. Real good friends.
Oh, all right.
Real good friends.
We got to be friends.
Yeah.
This might be way easier.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you.
So as I said, middle school field hockey has traditionally been through the rec department. While it's been run and operated through the rec department, they have been able to play in our athletic conference. So they do technically play in the Capital Area League. They have for the last X amount of years. My understanding, which this decision was made before my time, but my understanding was it allowed them to play some of our local schools that our school already plays, just to make travel and transportation a little bit easier for them. So the request this year would be bringing them into the school budget so that we would sponsor that. So as you can see on the front, I did survey the girls that are currently on the team that are Oak Hill Middle School students. We do have a handful of students who are homeschooled or participate in private schools who would play for the team. Only 10 responded to the survey. You can see it was pretty overwhelmingly in support. One brave soul said she just wanted to play field hockey, which I really admire that. If you go to the second page for the budget impact there, this was rough costs, right, for if we were to pick up the program entirely. So if this was from the ground up, these are what the costs would be. As you can see, there are a few items here that the rec department either has or has offered to potentially purchase or provide. I did meet with the field hockey director this past Friday, just so that way we were in cahoots and we were in agreement with what that would kind of look like. So these are current up-to-date numbers as of this week. Just due to the timing, this was just one vendor. Of course, we often like to get multiple vendors. This was just due to the timing of it. This is a trusted vendor that I often purchase a lot of equipment through. But we often, could potentially shop around, but I don't see prices really fluxing much. I feel like this is pretty standard. I was pretty thorough with the vendor saying that I needed some pretty accurate numbers due to the timeline and what we were trying to do here. Are there any questions with that sheet while we're on that?
Is any of this equipment already in possession with the rec department and that can be transferred, or is this all to be purchased new?
So good question. Some things are like the corner masks that they use for corner or penalty shots or whatnot. Those they already have. We were hoping that the cages would be able to be transferred over, but when I met with the rec director, they said the cages are in pretty rough shape and that we would have to be purchasing new ones, and that it's something that they were going to be looking to do in the future. So you can see that's one of the big hefty items there. Other than that, the goalie gear is another item that they had talked about that they said they were potentially trying to purchase new, but again, it's one of those things where it's tough to rely on that at this point in the game. So I wanted to make sure that we had accurate numbers so that we would know that if we were starting from the ground up and this was approved, these would be some of the costs that we would have.
How many of these items are one-time startup costs, and can any of the portion of this be offset by fundraising or other avenues?
Absolutely. So great question. So things like the cages, of course, are a one-time cost. The goalie gear is a one-time cost, and those are some of the bigger heavy hitters. I say one time. They should last for years, right? It's not like you're going to be purchasing those every year. The goalie gear can be kind of unique because it really depends on the size of the athlete that's wearing them. So we could purchase one set of gear, and then that student could go through the middle school, and then all of a sudden we now need to purchase new gear to fit another student. So That's kind of the lifespan of there. Uniforms, traditionally, we try to purchase new uniforms every 4 to 5 years. A lot of times that may vary depending on the quality and how they last and the wear and tear on them, so on and so forth. Depending on typical wear and tear year to year, we try to replace individually so that way they can last longer. But those are some of the big pieces. Other than that, stat books, med kits, practice cones, those are just kind of replenished year after year to make sure that they're stocked and we have them. Same thing with game balls and practice balls. Oftentimes we'll take older game balls and then utilize them as practice balls and then purchase new game balls. But again, that depends on the wear and tear. They're middle school athletes. They're going to lose some of them. So, how many we lose and things like that. Christy?
So, if we were to add field hockey, how many sports are available for girls and how many sports are available for boys?
Sure. So, currently in the fall, we offer boys and girls soccer and then cross country, which is for both. And then in the winter, we have girls and boys basketball. We do now have a co-op agreement with Lisbon for wrestling, so they could do that as well. And then for the spring, we'd have baseball, softball, and then track and field for the side as well.
So if we added field hockey, this would be an additional sports opportunity only for girls.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. One item I did just want to note, and we'll kind of get to this naturally, is the scoreboard piece at the bottom. So currently, and maybe I should have covered this prior. So currently, rec field hockey at the middle school age, they practice at the middle school every day, but they play their games at Carey Ricker. Part of that, because of the field that's there, but there's also a scoreboard currently at Carey Ricker. So the request of the rec department was that all practices and games would happen at Carey Ricker. So if for whatever reason that didn't happen and they ended up moving games to the middle school, a scoreboard would be a consideration to figure out how we would kind of navigate that.
Another question. So currently 5th graders can only do cross country.
Yes.
Would 5th grade girls be allowed to play middle school field hockey?
They would not. That's so on the back page that we'll get to, there are some considerations to think of. One of them is that, in fact, that 5th graders would not be allowed to. So when I spoke to the rec director, some part of that was the rec currently, a couple ways to look at it, right? We could offer traditionally, like most of our sports, which would be 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that could play on the team. If we do so, that would make it very, very hard for 5th grade girls in our district to play because they wouldn't have enough for a team. So then the conversation was, well, do we just offer one team? That would be 7th and 8th graders. That way our 6th graders could still play for rec, which would allow the 5th graders to have a team. The issue there is obviously that's the best case scenario, right? Because all of our students have an opportunity to play. The issue is that numbers flux year to year. So when you lose that extra 6th grade group, if you have a small 7th and 8th grade class, you could have dangerously low numbers. But there's no way to really predict that because that's the athlete pool that comes in year to year. Teresa.
What other high school youth have field hockey? Just rec programs, so like Lisbon or.
Yeah, so great question. So historically, a few years ago, I think there was a handful that it was run through the rec program. I believe Lisbon last year was just Lisbon and us that it wasn't through the school district. Lisbon did move it into their school budget. So in our capital area league, which is our athletic conference that we play, which is the nearby schools, Winthrop, Monmouth, Lisbon, Gardiner, Coney, all those kind of groups that we're the only school that technically doesn't have it as part of our budget. Now, there are schools that are not in our league that have it through the rec, but I do believe majority of them are part of their budget.
Can you repeat what you said about the rec would like us to do the games and practices at Carey Ricker and not use Oak Hill Middle School? And can you explain that request?
Sure. So like I said, currently middle school practices are at Oak Hill Middle School. So this current year, they've filled out a facility use form, and the rec uses in the outfield of the baseball field, they have like a half field that they've painted on, and that's where the girls practice every day. For all of their games currently, they travel to Carey Ricker, and that's their home field. So in meeting with the rec director, the request was made that they were hoping to have all practices and all games be at Carey Ricker.
So we'd have to transport them to Carrie Ricker for the practices as well.
So
That's
that
in here.
Yeah, so that's a request, and that was a comment in here. You know, when I met with Sheena Jordan, Director of Transportation, that would be extremely difficult. You know,
Yeah. Is there an opportunity for the rec to use Carrie Ricker
they do currently.
for whatever it is that they're doing now at the middle school, whereas we would be able to put the field hockey team at the middle school for their practices?
Could you
So
say that again? I'm sorry.
the rec department wants the field hockey team to use Carrie Ricker for games and practice.
Mhm.
Currently, they use it for games.
Yes.
What does the rec department use the middle school for? You know, you said that they have the agreement to use the middle school for this year. Would they be able to use Carrie Ricker instead next year, so we don't have to transport the field hockey team for practice?
I guess I'm.
Are you asking? Let me just see if I can understand what you're saying.
Just keep the girls at middle school and tell the rec department to use the Carrie Ricker. Why
Oh.
instead of transporting
Okay.
them for practice?
Sure, I hear what you're saying. Yes, I understand now. Thank you.
We'll get there.
There definitely is the possibility. That's kind of what I assumed would occur, because the whole point of really kind of being like school pride and bringing them in would be that they have their home school. Again, that was their request. I think part of it was the fact that there was a scoreboard there. They wouldn't have to compete for field time, just because if field hockey is at the middle school, now we're scheduling field hockey and soccer practices and games every day. So if they're looking to get a full field experience, that's going to just someone's going to have to take the early slot, someone's going to have to take the late slot. When games are happening, practices won't be able to, or they're going to have to shuffle around the school. So definitely a possibility. I think the intent from the rec department was that if they did move everything to Carrie Ricker, they would have a full field that was lined just for field hockey that they could kind of make their own. There is a consideration of like the grass length. A lot of times field hockey wants the grass to be a little bit shorter, and soccer wants it to be a little bit longer. That's something that we often ran into at the high school level. So that would also be a consideration if they are using the same field. We would just kind of have to navigate that.
Okay. I did see Matt and Robbie's hands. I don't know who went up first, but
Go ahead, Matt.
rock, paper, scissors.
I might have a few questions. If you
Yeah,
just
go
quick. Okay. Brian, is the scoreboard at Carrie Ricker used for anything other than field hockey?
No,
Okay.
not to my knowledge.
So if I don't know what the cost of it would be, but if the scoreboard were to be moved over to the middle school instead of buying a brand new one, would the rec department be able to use, if they for their 5 and 6 graders, also use the middle school field as well?
Yes, it would just be a scheduling piece,
Yeah.
because rec soccer currently uses that field. Although last year rec soccer was kind of transitioning towards like Wells Central School, so they weren't using the middle school as much as they have in the past. But again, it would just be a scheduling to make sure that we could accommodate all of our programs. Moving a scoreboard to the middle school does have some extra complications, like there's no electrical down that way. So it would just be electrical of running the conduit from wherever access point in the building is to an appropriate spot in the field.
Yeah.
We would also just have to be a little creative. Can totally be done, but just making sure that the location we put it in is beneficial for all programs, just because there's a lot of rec teams and a lot of school teams that utilize those fields in the fall and the spring. So we want to make sure that like we're not putting it in the outfield of the baseball field. You know what I mean? Things like
Right.
that. So just being creative, which could also add additional cost, because if we're putting it in a certain spot to be beneficial, might be further. And then we also kind of get to the point, if we're putting a scoreboard on that side, could it be utilized by baseball as well? And then if so, are we eventually going to look at putting one in for softball?
That's good. Good questions, Matt.
So, Brian, my question would be, the scheduling piece for the fields is an issue, and like you said, the length of the grass and the condition of the field.
Mhm.
I know that field at Carrie Ricker is pretty nice for field hockey. It was set up for that. It was set up for. It's a great field.
Absolutely.
And I know the outfield of the baseball field is not. It's pretty rough. It would
Yep.
have to be rolled. It would have to be just about reconditioned and to make it a decent field hockey field. If not, you're in the same scenario you are at Oak Hill.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing on the outfield of the baseball field and some of the infield,
Yes. Yep.
So I guess my question would be the $17,974. That's just a start.
Yes. Yep.
So would that be every year, or would like the cost of the cages would go away?
Yep.
And other things, so it would come down from there. The Goldie equipment would probably, come away for at least 3 or 4 years, depending on the student we had playing Goldie. So realistically, you're talking about every round numbers saying 10,000.
Roughly, yes.
Roughly
Roughly,
a year would, be added to the budget
Yep. Yeah, I think that'd be pretty
for
accurate.
field hockey.
Yep.
Now, I know in the past we've had people come to us about football. Is that next coming down the line? Because, we got a football program in RAC, and we got schools that sponsor football that we play in. So I guess is that next coming down the line?
Yeah, great question. Not really a clean answer, right?
Yeah.
So, when I think of that initially, I think of football and lacrosse, right?
Right.
Those are two potential sports that could come in. To kind of counter that is they don't technically current play in our school conference.
Right.
I have heard that rec football is potentially working to try to get into a school conference. So if that did happen, I could see them pursuing that. Now, obviously, with football, there's a lot more that goes into
Sure.
football than
Right,
other
yeah.
sports with goalposts and equipment and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's like its own beast per se.
Right.
So assuming lacrosse didn't try to get into a school conference, I think that's really kind of like the line there is that, if it's a rec sport, it's a rec sport.
Right.
That kind of differentiates that, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
there's definitely a potential,
Yeah.
something to look into, but I think that's the difference at this point in time.
I'm just trying to remember, because I know we had looked at it in the past, and Jim had looked up the numbers, and he said anywhere from 23 to 25,000
For
for
football, oh yeah.
football.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And that was probably 10 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Well, it's a good thing nothing's changed between then and now, right? Just thinking, Brian, you have some other handouts, and just to appreciate, obviously, our other directors contributing to this proposal, just so that you guys had an overall picture, of potentials here, right? Brian, do you mind speaking to the facilities and maintenance and transportation pieces?
Absolutely.
And then, obviously, if we need to pivot for additional information to either Sean or Sheena, we can do that, okay?
Sure. So facilities and maintenance, kind of similarly, pretty clearly outlined. The big thing is additionally lining of a field, because obviously it's two separate fields. Currently, the rec department lines their own field. So if we're taking that on, just making sure that we have the staffing and the ability to do that. In talking with field hockey, they were confident that, I quote, we have some super motivated parents, which is phenomenal. That's why their programs had so much success. So they were confident that they thought that some of those parents might be willing to kind of help out with that to start with, but it wouldn't be a long-term situation, right? So might be able to kind of piggyback on them. Some of the other pieces there were the mowing, as I mentioned, because field hockey prefers that short grass, so the ball slides over easily. We, of course, have to mow our fields more often. My understanding is now at Carricker, they mow the fields just before like every game day. But if they're doing a full field practice, obviously they're going to want that more. So it'd just be that extra piece of kind of making sure they mow that. And some of the other pieces there were just taking care of that equipment. And then maintenance, of course, seating, goal areas and things like that. If it is a school-sponsored event, we want to make sure we try to protect those pieces. So, I had relied on Sean for some of that. He had roughed out roughly $1,100 for some of that a year.
Can you explain the additional lining of the field? If they're already using that field for games, what does that cost for, and how is that different from what's in the field paint in the prior matrix?
Yep.
Sure. So this would be more like the labor of lining it, and then potentially just some supplies if they need it there, like a different painter or things like that. So we have a painter at the middle school currently, like one of the paint wheels to actually paint. So things like that could add up to supplies.
Well, this says 400 labor, 200 supplies.
Yeah. So that wouldn't be like the paint itself. That would be more, the paint would be in the line prior. I have field paint on the athletic one.
Yeah.
So the supplies would be more, like I said, like the roller, the measuring stick, things like that to make sure they have the equipment.
Not the paint itself.
Yeah, not the paint itself. Like,
So I guess I'm slow tonight, Brian. I don't have
No,
enough coffee.
you're fine. So that would be like that rough number, and then roughly the $400 would be the labor of actually doing it.
Yeah.
And like I said, depending where the field is, right? If they were to come to the middle school and it's the only field there, then we absolutely would need to do it. Now, if it was where rec was always playing and rec did it, there's a potential we wouldn't have to do that. But in the same sense, it's still kind of our responsibility if it's our team to make sure that it
Make
gets
sure
done.
it's done.
So then that's kind of why we incorporate it there, to make sure that we had that included.
Well, for one thing, games are earlier through the school than they are with rec.
Yeah.
Because most time games start at 6 o'clock for rec,
For rec, yes.
and they start right after school, which, you know, a lot of parents are working or just getting out of work. They wouldn't have time to line the field.
Yes, and there are some additional complications with start times as well, just with Carricker's dismissal.
I was just going to
so-
say that.
Yeah, they've kind of worked through that this year, where the rec field hockey team pushed back their start times a little bit later than traditionally would be, just so that way there isn't conflicts with Carricker dismissal. So that would be just another kind of consideration if it's at Carricker to the middle school and what that kind of looks like.
Yep. Please
Yep.
go right ahead. Yep.
And then if you want to flip to the last page, so transportation, Sheena Jordan gave us some numbers for based off their away games. So currently the middle school team played a 9-game schedule. It would rotate every year between 4 home, 5 away, and 5 home, 4 away. Of course, this isn't including like potential playoff games and trips like that, but she just did a rough draft of what it would be for transportation for 5 away games a year. And of course, it's hard to really pinpoint this because it depends if we're going to Dirigo or Lisbon. Obviously, there's going to be a big difference there. So Sheena just kind of did like a rough number somewhere in the middle for 5 games. And then at the bottom of that page, I just listed some considerations and benefits. A lot of things we've kind of already talked about. So some considerations are the transportation piece. Getting them to Carricker every day would be an issue that would a hurdle that would kind of need to be worked through. Just we don't have necessarily bus space to put those girls on a bus with their equipment and then get them there for our dismissal time. Scheduling conflict, like I said, scheduling alignment, I should say. A consideration is this past year, rec field hockey started practicing on August 11th. Or it's when their first facility use form was in. So if they came into alignment with the school, we don't start athletics until the first week of school, which would be September. So they'd start roughly 3.5 weeks later than they currently are. Some other concerns from meeting with the rec director was they do a lot of play days or tournaments on Sundays. Of course, as a school, we don't sponsor, athletic competitions on Sundays. So that would be something else that they would have to kind of figure out. Grade level eligibility, which we talked about, Christy, with the 5th graders and how that would pan out. And then the same thing with the scoreboard, just how we would kind of navigate the scoreboard, whether they were playing Carricker or Oak Hill Middle School. And then benefits are consistent oversight and alignment with district policies and eligibility standards. So they would be in line with the rest of our student athletes with the expectations of what our school has, really kind of being a part of I say a part. They're already a part of the Oak Hill Pride, but just kind of being more on paper a part of the Oak Hill Raider Pride. Full integration into existing middle school athletic opportunities. So just aligning with our conference, and then transportation provided by the school, which was another big hiccup from the rec director, was that it'd be really beneficial for the school to provide transportation to games. Christy.
So, looking at the considerations, my neighbor plays field hockey, and I have a lot of friends that have girls that play field hockey. Looking at the start date and with the Sunday stuff, would the league allow them to play? Like, how would that work? Because it seems like to me that they would be losing playing time if they merged with the middle school compared to what they have currently with rec.
Yeah, so I'm guessing the Sunday play days are not necessarily aligned with our conference, just because it's a school conference. So
There's parents in the audience. I'm sure they can nod.
Yeah,
and
so
tell
like
me.
the
Okay, that'd be great.
yeah the Sunday play days are not obviously part of the Capital Area League.
Okay.
So that's where that piece would be. Just that's something separate if they were to pursue, but it wouldn't be sponsored by the middle school. So like things like transportation and equipment and athletic gear, things like that, they wouldn't be allowed to use if they were playing in like a Sunday tournament per se, just because it's middle school equipment and it's not school sponsored. And then the scheduling alignment, they'd be starting roughly 3.5 weeks later.
And then there's the expectation that their how grades are at a certain level.
Yep. Yeah, of course they'd follow
all those eligibility.
all eligibility,
pieces.
everything else that we do as far as sports physicals, insurance, eligibility, athletic code handbook, all of those things would be in alignment with the rest of the school.
And then my other question mark is the homeschool athletes that play on the team. I know having something right after school can be a challenge for them. So all of those pieces.
Yeah, I believe there were 5 students that were currently playing on the team that were not currently enrolled in the middle school. But like any sport, as long as they attend a school that doesn't offer athletics and they're residents of the district, excuse me, yeah, and they have their vaccinations and things to align with school, then they're fine.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions for Brian? Thanks, Brian.
All right.
All
Thanks
right.
so much,
Thank
Brian.
you.
Appreciate it.
All right. We invite anybody from the public who would like to come up and chat about this,
Join us at the table, please.
and we can have a question and answer. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
workshop. It's not a
Absolutely.
just so people know. It's a workshop. It's not a formal board meeting. I think you're the spokesperson.
I mean, you get, all 3 of you guys could come up. We'll
Don't
just
you
get
miss
you
being
another
at this
chair.
table?
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Come on, you don't want to just be out back, do you? No, right? Yeah.
We can bring more chairs up. There you
Okay.
go.
All right. Thank you for having a chair for me this time. So I am here as a parent of a child who participated in field hockey. I was asked to come. I think most of you probably remember last year when I presented a signed petition by residents of over 100 signatures supporting field hockey, middle school field hockey, specifically 7th and 8th graders to be added to the district. Over the past season, coordinating transportation to and from field hockey games was extremely challenging for many families. There was weeks as many as 3 games without school-provided transportation, and parents were often left scrambling to make it work. So the challenge is compounded when games are scheduled on Wednesdays. More and more schools are moving toward early dismissal days, which makes it really difficult to bring students back to school and then have to send them off again or transport them directly to places like Bethel and Dixfield. Those are places that we went this year. So I think this sheet said that we had 9 or 11 games. I think it was like 50, but it felt like that. It was not really that, but it felt like that. So I want to be very clear. This is not an initiative rooted in dissatisfaction. The programming and coaching and events have been positive and meaningful to our students. Rather, I'd like you to take this as an opportunity for growth that includes adding transportation, introducing academic standards, and mirroring expectations at a high school level, and allowing our school to fully participate in the same athletic conference as all of our surrounding schools do. I respectfully ask you to consider strengthening your commitment to youth sports programs across the board. I know that you had kind of stated football. I don't think that in 2026 we should be in a position where we're scared to add things. Oh no, it went aside. So, football, cheering, lacrosse, track and field, volleyball, tennis, ski teams, swim teams, and beyond. Their programs are vital to student development and school pride. So, again, I had submitted this, the petition, and I ask you, just for future reference, like, what does it take to get your attention? Is it 200 signatures, 500, 1,000? I ask not out of frustration, but a genuine desire to understand and the process and engage as a productive community member. So I thank you for your time, your consideration, your continued dedication to our students, and I hope that they see this opportunity to invest in future programs that help our children grow, to thrive, and feel supported. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Laura. Thank you.
Can you hear me? All right. I'm Brad. I'm not as well known here as Laura, but I have a daughter that plays field hockey.
Sabatis resident, Brad? Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay,
Yeah.
just curious. That's
Yeah,
all.
I live right over by the middle school.
Nice.
I think for us, it seems like some stuff might have been a little lost in translation in here. Like the kids don't need to go to Carrie Ricker every day.
Can you make sure that you're really close
Really
and
close?
personal?
Yeah, I'm just gonna pick it up. Sorry.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
I think it's a little overcomplicated in the thing here. Like the kids today are playing at the middle school for practice every day. They don't need to go to Carrie Ricker every day. That works. When it comes to participation in some of the Sunday events, there are towns here that we're competing with where the rec program is sending the kids to these weekend events and the school is sending them to all of the conference games. So the rec program can still exist and send kids to these extra programs and extra events, and the school can compete with the other schools in the area and compete very well. I know there was a comment in there that we started April 11th last year. We had 4 practices before the school season, so it's not like that's a huge difference or anything like that. It's not a huge loss. I think this puts us in line with what the other schools are doing. So I'm not worried that like the program's going to fall apart and the kids are not going to be able to compete or that there's this big fall off there. I think another thing to consider is we have a lot of interest in field hockey. Like this rec program, the middle school team last year had 28 kids on it. You only have 11 on the field. So we were trucking 5th graders to Bethel, and parents are getting out of work and taking 5th graders to Bethel, and then they're not getting in the game. They're just sitting on the bench. And so I think there is a need where the program has grown to a certain level. We almost need to split the 5th and 6th and the 7th and 8th and have them participate at different levels. I know my daughter was playing 5th grade in the rec against 8th graders, and she was, miniature compared to these girls, and I was a little scared to have her out on the field, to be honest. And I would just say this is a program that the rec has done a really good job of building a youth program, and I feel like this town could use some wins, and this is a team that's competing for championships now, and we have a lot of talent. Like last year we lost in the finals to Winthrop, but it's a very, very good group of kids, and there's a lot of talent coming up through the system. So I think it's a team that in the future can hang banners in the gymnasiums and do a lot of that. And like my daughter, she just wants to hear her scores announced over the loudspeaker. Like she wants to feel like she's part of the real school program and not feel like field hockey is a second tier sport when we have so many kids playing it and so many kids interested. So yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Brad.
Thank you. I have a question, though. Don't run away.
Okay.
So is the intent here to have it only for 7th and 8th? Because I know that was brought up before. And then you were just saying how the 5th graders don't really get to play, which would make sense. So is the intent to only do this through the school for 7th and 8th?
Well, I think
And-
there's a few ways that it can be done. What some of the other schools do is it's a 6th through 8th program, but you have tryouts for the 6th graders, and you have a few of the strong ones that are ready come up and play with the 7th and 8th grade kids, and then you still have enough 5th and 6th grade kids to be able to have a rec team, and those through the rec they have regular practices and they go to the play days on Saturdays and Sundays like that, so they still get the playing time. Right now we've actually, I think it's leading to burnout. Like I have a daughter who's obsessed with field hockey. She plays travel, she plays all year long, but during the middle school season when she was in 5th and 6th grade, she had 5 days of practice a week for 2 hours a day, which is more than the middle school would allow through their program, and she would get burnt out by the end of the season. But 5th and 6th grade, she was actually playing some Saturday play days and some Sunday play days. So there were times where she was playing 14 days in a row of field hockey, and the weekend play days, it's 4 or 5 games sometimes. And I think 5th and 6th grade, they really only need rec, unless there's one of those top players that kind of make the middle school team, and then it's like, okay, stretch a little bit. And they're usually not a starter on the school team, but you kind of get, it allows you to separate it and make sure that the kids that are going to the games are actually playing in the games, and then the kids that still need development, they get to play against 5th and 6th graders and work on the development, and then when they get to 7th and 8th grade, be a little bit more ready to be out on the field with those other kids.
And I think that the ask is that it's treated like other middle school sports and just adopted the same. So those are primarily the 7th and 8th grade, and sometimes the 6th will kind of go swing with that.
But then we'd have the 5 and 6 through rec, which is what we do for
Every-
soccer.
Every other sport.
So we do that for all the other sports as well. So, and that's where, is that where like the scheduling of the field conflict comes in? Because the rec is going to continue to want to use the middles. Was that what I was like missing during that part of the chat?
I just in this was that the rec still plans to just use the Kerry Ricker field for their younger grades.
I thought they wanted us to use it.
Yeah, they did say that they would like the.
Okay. Okay. I got it now. Thank you. Go
Can I
ahead, Krista.
ask a question? So currently with rec, are you paying a fee to play field hockey?
Yes, I have the rec field hockey budget that was approved, and I don't know because we just pay and pay and pay, but I think it was around $100, and you had to buy a jersey, so it could be 85, it could be something. I'm not sure, but yeah. So on their budget, it does say that pre-K through 1 is $40 and middle school is 85.
And then they were spending 50 on a jersey,
Mhm.
a reversible jersey. Yep, it was an extra 50, I believe.
Mhm.
Yep.
And their total budget, because they have a lot of the equipment they can use year after year, so their total budget was $10,000, and that included play days and different things, and a stipend for coach, and that's the entire grade budget. So maybe they could help with some of this other budget.
Stipend for coach.
Yeah, some of them get paid. They
Oh.
donate. Some field hockey
Interesting.
specifically donates food and all kinds of things, and yeah, so I'm sure it doesn't even cover the cost of the things that they give back personally. But
And Brian, we're not currently charging families to play sports. We have in the past. Wasn't there an activity fee at one point?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Go ahead, Teresa.
It sounds like we're going to need a scoreboard if they're going to use Gary Ricker. No.
Carrie Ricker has the scoreboard.
No, but if we're doing at the middle school, won't we need a school board for sure?
If they move the games to the middle school, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we would either
Well,
have
they'll
to
stay at Gary Ricker, the games?
Well, that's our
decision.
dis- decision.
We
I'm
would
just
look
for
to
budget
Brian.
reasons. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're beginning at 20, so just trying to get a better feel for where we would end up.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate that, Teresa. Thanks.
And I think that's like, I think if there was no cost attached, we'd be like, yes, 100%. Like the hard part for us sitting here is that we've challenged the superintendent to have a zero budget, and every increase means we're taking away from something else.
Well,
So
zero
that-
increase.
yeah, that's what I meant.
I'll
So
take
a
a
zero,
zero
budget. A zero increase. Sorry.
We can all go home.
so I mean, from like a parent perspective, though, like my daughter doesn't play soccer, so why does soccer parents
I
get
get that.
buses
Yeah.
and costs? So cut soccer and do field hockey. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the frustrating part from my side personally, is that there's no like opportunity there. And so like literally my husband used all of his time and got written up because he had to leave work at 11 from Bath to get home to get her out to Bethel. Like it was real, and it's just frustrating that, you know, like it's continued. And you have like, I don't understand when you have, again, petitions and ask and people here and in front of you, and it's well, soccer is more important. And I know that that's not really the message, but that's the message that it's getting, is like, it's too expensive to invest in your girls, but if they play soccer, then that's okay. Do you know what I mean? And I know that you don't want that perception, but that's how quite a few field hockey people feel, is that why are our girls not? I mean, they went to the playoffs, championships. And so it's like, yeah, it's a lot, and it just would be nice to be, to support them too. So.
it sounds like we have an awful lot of desire within the community and support within the community. Do you think if we were to go ahead and add this in, that there's enough support in the community there that we could fundraise to offset the startup costs?
Well, I think all of the fundraisers, I know from like a high school level, because that's the only sport that my kids play that gets to be school funded. So from a high school level, I know that oftentimes their fundraisers are $3,000-ish. So I don't think it would take very long. I think that I don't know what the cost of the one at Carrie Ricker was that was just donated, but or how long that took. But I would probably, Are you asking me personal? I'm not available after this week, so.
No, not you personally. Just what your thoughts are, because I'm not involved in field hockey. I don't,
I think probably there could be a business donation in the future for a scoreboard if that was a thing.
All right. Any other questions?
So just one more thing before I give up my time too, but there's a lot of sports, and I just encourage you guys to, I know some of you that have sports, but encourage you guys to go around to these fields and look at what is happening. Pleasant Hill is always packed, and that's 3-4 fields of it. And I think it's just important to, like, the rec department does put in a lot of time and effort to coach kids up, lacrosse, football. I don't know how much time your husband spent last year with plays and all the things, but they spend a ton of time to do this, and then they kind of get to a point where it's hard to travel and to do, and then not feel supported and hit those roadblocks. And so all of these kids are on honor roll as well. So if you guys kind of saw that come out, and so everything tying together just, I think, makes better students.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time
Thank you, Brad.
and participation. We'll go moving on to line by line, right? Sam, is that where we're at?
Line by line.
Line by line for Cost Center 4. All right.
All right, so we're looking at your Cost Center 4 budget document. Before we jump into the line by line, similar to the other cost centers, I'll just let you know how this one is kind of organized. So as noted, this covers regular education summer school, so not ESY special ed services. That's the first cluster of accounts. We also have vacation school, which is the second grouping of accounts. And then it will get into our co-curricular, so our clubs and activities, and extracurricular. And those are kind of organized by school. So that's how they'll be structured. And we'll look at the staffing in each of those sections and discretionary lines like we've done with the others. So we'll jump right in. We start with summer school. So line 1 and line 2 represent...
Hold on.
That sounds awful. Is that me?
I think so.
Okay, I'll keep going until it sounds bad again.
Yeah.
So you have salary for teacher and ed techs for summer school. We are applying for and pursuing Title I reallocated funds to supplement our young summer school options for our early learners. And then those discretionary lines start at line 13. There's no...
Can we see if there's another microphone?
sure.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Sam.
Does that sound okay?
We'll give that one a whirl, see if it was microphone issue.
So you'll notice that we've allotted similar staffing amounts to last year. We are reducing the ed techs, though, and just offering the positions for the salaried folks, the teachers there. And then when you scoot down to vacation school, the notable difference here between this current fiscal year and the upcoming budget year is that we're only offering or planning to offer December and April vacation school, so omitting February vacation school. So you'll see that the staffing lines are reduced by about a third, starting with line 14 and going down through line 19 for vacation school. That was a recommendation coming from Mr. Springer at the high school. And then starting with line 20, this is where we start to get into the and extracurricular activities for all of the schools. So we start with Carrie Ricker. Carrie Ricker has one co-curricular offering for yearbook. So lines 20 through 25 are the stipend amount and associated employer taxes for that position, as well as a small request for supplies to support the Carrie Ricker yearbook. Line 27 starts the co-curriculars for the middle school. So the staffing lines go down to 32, but in the notes section you'll see different stipended offerings for clubs and activities at the middle school. I'll let you read through those. Similar offerings to what we have currently. And then in line 34, there's a small amount of supplies requested to support some of the activities at the middle school, like the art club uses a lot of consumables, so that's increased just a little bit there. I can kind of skip over lines 35 through 41. There used to be athletics at Carrie Ricker that was namely the ski club that was offered there, and we haven't done that in a number of years. And then starting with line 42, these are the middle school extracurricular or athletic lines. So you can see that we have a couple of salary lines there. One specifically for the athletic director stipend. That is a stipend position, not a half or full time. And then line 43 represents the athletic stipends for fall, winter, and spring. This would be where we would add in, if you elected to add field hockey costs, they would live in this account cluster. So all of the noted expenses that were mapped out in Mr. Daniel's overview. Yep.
And Brian, you said the stipend for field hockey was $2,000? Okay.
Yeah, middle school sports by contract are $2,000
Right,
plus
that's
the
what I thought,
longevity. So I think he had incorporated two stipend positions for that.
Yeah.
So that's what would be added into line 43, and the associated employer costs down through line 57 for the middle school. And then the discretionary lines would be modified based on your feedback as well. If you decided to include those, the supply lines, equipment, things like that, that would have to increase based on what would need to be added in to support that programming. Notably, I just wanted to draw your attention to line 59. So this cost center as a whole is down pretty significantly. Christy asked earlier, is that near $80,000 decrease? Is that all the field maintenance? It's not. So the field maintenance you'll see in line 59, and then you'll see later in the high school lines as well. That has been moved back to cost center 9. So those costs were covered in maintenance years ago, and there's been some advocacy to move those costs back because they are facilities and maintenance costs. So we've moved that, but there are some other reductions that I'll note too. So all told, I believe the field maintenance is about a $20,000 reduction from this cost center, but it's not a reduction. It's just moved to cost center 9. Well, you'll see it come up later. Line 64 begins the high school lines. So there's two account clusters here, the co-curricular or clubs and activities, and then athletics. So we're looking first at clubs and activities. So there's quite a bit of offerings at the high school. I know that's a point of pride for our high school students, staff, and administration. The related salary lines for those co-curricular stipends go down through line 69. So line 70 through 74, as you increase the offerings, then the discretionary lines that are associated with them tend to increase as well. So some slight increases to supply lines, some reductions to dues and fees a little bit, and an increase to contracted services there in your co-curriculars at the high school. And line 74 represents the dues and travel for associated clubs and activities in this account cluster. So those often come before you, our FBLA and other groups that travel for competitions. They have some budget allotment that pairs with some of the fundraising that they do for those trips that they take. Then line 75 begins the athletic lines at the high school. So we have a couple of salary lines here. We have a halftime athletic director. Remember, that position currently is split halftime AD at the high school and halftime adult ed director, which falls outside of the general fund and we'll cover at a later meeting. And then line 76 represents the stipends for athletics at the high school for fall, winter, and spring seasons. And then the related salary and benefit lines for those associated lines go through line 90. So the discretionary lines for high school athletics start with line 91 and continue to 98. So I just wanted to make note of a couple of things. Line 92, this purchase services line is very similar to the middle school purchase services line with one kind of substantial difference. This is where the athletic trainer contract is paid out of, so that's why it's significantly higher than the middle school, as that full contract is paid for out of that expense line. Both of our ADs noted, some minor increases to officials' fees from this current year, so those lines have both gone up a little bit. Line 93 is another expense line of note that we wanted to draw attention to. So if you look at the progression from year to year, you'll see that this current year FY26 ballooned quite a bit in comparison to prior years. The reason for that is we had a very costly repair to the tennis courts, which was much overdue. So that repair was in excess of $30,000 and it had been bumped out of prior budget years. And, we had made a commitment this year to do that repair. It's been done. They look beautiful. It was wonderfully done. And that substantial increase has been able to be backed out to a degree. So what's happening with that repair and maintenance lines is actually two things. The need for the tennis court repairs is not there this year. And then also the routine maintenance for the fields has been moved to cost center 9 as well, like the middle school. Additionally, the athletic director at the high school is advocating for a safety repair to the football end zone. This has come up in conversations in prior years, but there is a slope to the end of that field that officials have noted year over year is becoming more and more unsafe as it becomes more drastic. So that field needs to be repaired in a way that it presents a safe playing surface for our students. So the athletic director has been working with a local vendor to get some estimates to frame out what we would put in the budget to support that repair. Because of the timing, we can be creative and use some of our existing FY26 funds. About a quarter of the project could be paid with funds this year to start the project because it would be a summer project. And then 3/4 of it would be budgeted in FY27. So that's why that repair and maintenance line wasn't brought down to the $20,000 from the prior year before the tennis courts, but left at more like 34 to support that safety repair, which my understanding, and we can get more detail if necessary, but the longer we defer that repair, the more costly it will become, and the more dangerous that playing surface is for our students. I'm assuming some of these refs that come year in, year out and see that surface, if they don't see it attended to, the recommendation from them is going to get more vehement as years go on. So line 98 finishes the athletics at the high school. And then line 99 is an extraneous account that should never have been created, but was budgeted to 1 year in error. So just ignore that one because there's nothing in it. And then we get to the grand total for cost center 4, which is other instruction. So you'll see that the cost center, as we noted in the slides, is just over $500,000, which is down $80,000 from last year. But again, like the major reasons for that: maintenance moving into cost center 9 for the fields, and then being able to reduce that high school repair and maintenance line pretty significantly. Questions on that?
I do.
Sure.
So we didn't stop for each cluster this time. You were on a roll, though. So, but I'm going to bring us back to line number 1.
Line number 1.
I'm just curious of how many students attend the summer school programming and how many attend 100% attendance, full, they go every day. They're supposed to go.
That's a great question, Nicole. I don't believe we have that answer at the ready, but we can do a data request for our next meeting.
Yep. Thank you. And I didn't know about vacation school. Hmm.
Are you done, Nicole?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, with the middle school athletic director stipend, will that increase with an additional sport? Potentially. Okay.
I think we'd have to look at the contract.
Yeah, I would say like
Yeah.
potentially, right? It's part of the stipend schedule, right?
Yeah.
So like, you know,
Is that a determining?
yes,
That's a factor.
of course,
How many sports that you're
Yes.
coordinating determines what
That's
the stipend
correct.
is. Okay.
that is correct,
That's not
Christy.
something that was in our proposal. So that's why.
No, I
asked
mean
that
that's fair,
question.
right? And we didn't think about like administrative cost, if
Right.
you will, overseeing it, right? Right. I appreciate that. That's good.
Go ahead, Robbie. Guys.
Brian, I know that the middle school field in the fall is burnt right to pieces. I mean, are we considering if field hockey plays on that field, we would have to water that field? I would assume.
Absolutely. This has been a topic that we've actually
Right.
talked about at
Right.
the district level. The middle school currently doesn't have an irrigation system. Now,
Mhm.
this past summer was a little bit more of an extreme drought than typical years, so
Right.
it did look worse than it normally has.
Yeah, it was brown.
Yeah.
The whole thing was brown.
Oh yeah, very much so. Which potentially has led to some of our like annual maintenance on the field as far as
Right.
like grub control and things like that, because we're limited to what we can or can't do because we
Sure.
don't have water.
Right.
So we have talked about that. It would be a pretty significant cost to try to install an
Yeah.
irrigation system and get
Well, the thing is, we have water, but we'd have to pay for it because it's city water.
and getting the pressure like a booster
Right.
pump, or would you
Right.
drill a well? Because the high
Yeah.
school irrigation system is based off an old well
Right.
that is just for the irrigation. So would be
Yeah.
you know
It doesn't have to be potable water. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. So there's
Yeah.
there's definitely some impacts there, which potentially could occur. Now, again, historically the field has survived and
Yeah.
maintained year after year. This past year or two was
Mhm.
just an extreme drought, but
Well,
you're
I'm
right.
just thinking if we have to cut it shorter for field hockey, it's
Yep.
going to make it worse.
Yep. No, that's a very good point. Something to consider as we continue to move forward.
Right. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, where the softball project, field hockey at the high school, that's gone away.
I don't have that answer.
Okay.
Well, it's
Well, right.
I think there's aspirations, and I think
Right.
there would love to be that change.
Sure.
I don't believe there's anything actively being worked on, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Okay. All right. And don't get me wrong, I think field hockey is a great idea, but I just budget-wise, I think it's maybe a number that we're looking to get this budget to the taxpayers, and if the taxpayers want it, show up at the meeting and vote for it, and put it in that line. They have that option, and it still has to go through referendum. You know what I mean? But if they show up at the meeting and they say, we want you to put $20,000 in cost center 4 for field hockey, I think everybody sitting around this table would say, okay, if it passes referendum, that's the possibility.
Just to be clear, that we would be taking that under advisement. They can't tell us what to do with that $20,000.
Well, no, they
Though,
can't
just the
tell us-
cost center, right?
But they can tell us what cost center they want to increase it in.
I'm just clarifying for
And
the
I'm
people
just
at
saying
home.
that if the taxpayers were at that meeting,
We could still do
it's
something
definitely our
else with
discretion.
it.
But I'm just telling you that I would listen to the taxpayers if they said, "Look, we're going to put $20,000 in cost center 4. and we want it to go to field hockey.
Robbie, I'm only bringing it up because a lot of times at the high school meeting we run into the issue where there's confusion about when someone says, I want to put $150,000 back into the maintenance budget because X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Right? That's all well and good,
Right.
and we could all vote for the $150,000 to be there, but that doesn't mean...
No, it doesn't mandate that we have to put it
Right.
to what they say.
I just wanna
you
make
know,
sure-
that's
Just
our
wanted to
discretion.
everyone
sure
at
that
home
was known.
understands.
But I'm just saying, I would hope the board would listen to the community members.
Oh,
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead, Christy.
So, an information request. I'm wondering, in terms of what surrounding districts are doing for activity fees. So, are our surrounding districts charging activity fees for athletics and co-curricular? And the reason why I ask is because I did ask what field hockey rec is paying, and they're paying $85 plus $50 for a jersey. So it sounds like families are used to potentially paying a portion to participate. And as we think about passing this budget, is this an area that around us is common practice and maybe we want to consider? With a caveat that there's built-in scholarships for families that have any financial needs or requests.
Sure. I don't have the most up-to-date knowledge. I know there's a survey that goes out every year to our state association where that information gets spread around. To my knowledge, most of the districts that are similar sizes around us do not have an activity fee. That was part of the consideration when we waived it years ago. You know, prior it used to be a $50 fee at the high school and a $25 fee at the middle school. And then if you did more than two, then the third one was free, so on and so forth. Yeah, and then again, there was a family cap based on, you know, if you had X amount of students and X amount of schools doing a certain amount of activities. Definitely something to consider. I would say I felt like it was a pretty big win for our student athletes to not have that, but definitely something to factor in as we're talking about tough budget decisions.
Yeah, that's where my brain is going. Like, we want to support everything that we can for students, but for me, the first thing that I would have to cut would be things that are not in the classroom, because I believe that the classroom piece is important. Sports and co-curriculars are important. I'm not saying they're not, but as we're making difficult decisions, that might be an area that we may want to look at to see how it would impact. Because I kind of quickly did the math, and it seems like there's about 911 athletes in co-curriculars. There's probably duplications there, but that's a pretty significant number in our district.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think about creative ways that we haven't talked about to be able to get this budget passed.
Yeah, we can make sure that you have that information, Christy. That's no problem. The board will get that. Appreciate it. Oh, Teresa. Oh,
Kind of along the same lines, do we know football and lacrosse, are they all rec nearby, or are they, like, does Lisbon have football in the middle school?
I do not have that information. I mean, I can tell you, like, roughly, I think most schools our size in the area, I want to say their football is through the rec. And I believe lacrosse is as well. But there could be some outliers.
Okay, just planning for the future if we have petitions for those sports, because going from what Laura said, the fairness and kids that are playing this stuff in rec to feel a part of the school, and how it can come up next year or the year after. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I will just say that, you know, we do a lot at the middle school to support all of our athletes or all of our students, regardless of what their activities or events are. I mean, we have students who compete nationally in karate, and we recognize them even though it's not a school-sponsored event. So we try to do a really good job of recognizing our student successes across the board, regardless of the activity and regardless what jersey they're wearing.
I like that.
I have a question about Carrie Ricker yearbook. How many students purchase, and how many students are in the school?
how many kids are in the school?
Well, that would be available to eligible to purchase such yearbook.
Jenny, do you want to step up to the table? Join us at the table?
And it could just be an information or data request.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, we can get We can get some
Not gonna
up-to-date info for you.
lock you into
Yeah,
what
tell
you
us
say.
exactly, Jenny, right now, how many kids bought a yearbook last year?
Oh.
I don't have that information for you, but I can get it for you. And remember that last year we only had 2 grade levels,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it would be different. I do know that there's been a change this year with the yearbook stipend. The mentor is including students in taking the pictures. She put out a survey and has asked for second, third, and fourth graders who wanted to participate, and they meet on Wednesdays. And they came to the 4th grade concert, some of the kids, and took pictures. So there is getting more student participation in the yearbook.
Thank you.
But I can get you numbers for it.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thanks, Jenny. Appreciate it.
And you guys can just, start talking. You don't have to wait for me to acknowledge you because I'm not paying attention very well. So.
Are you talking to me? Should I talk? We can.
Whoever, no.
I mean,
it's
if we
just-
keep rolling.
Yeah,
I mean,
you-
unless you guys. I mean,
Unless if they're all done, yeah, I just don't. I mean, you don't have to wait for me to call your name. Like, you raise your hand, obviously, and wait for the
that's
other person.
nice. Yeah.
It's a workshop. It's not formal. We're not formal. No motions. No nothing. Does anybody else have any questions or anything?
I did have a quick question about the high school football field repair. Just to clarify, so with the maintenance and repair moving to cost center 9, this specific repair is staying here, or is it moving with the cost center 9 move?
Nope, it's staying here in the athletics. The other maintenance things are the routine, like treatment of the grass and fertilizing and things like that. That doesn't get applied just to the athletic fields. It gets applied to some of the other grounds in the buildings as well. And I'm not certain when the move went to Cost Center 4, but I think it was within recent years that those funds were picked up with Cost Center 4. But we surveyed and kind of felt out other, school districts and say, like, where do you budget for and pay for those things? And it was, pretty predominantly was in Cost Center 9. So we decided to move it back there, and just keep those things over with the rest of the care for the buildings and the grounds.
Thank you.
Yeah, as far as the maintenance goes on the football field on that end, I know if you run across that back baseline where the parking lot is, you're only seeing about half the person as he runs by because it slopes down so hard there. But has there been any thought to moving the field the other way?
Yeah, it was funny, right? Like, I think we had talked with.
I know we'd have to move the goalposts.
Yeah, you'd have to move the goalposts, and it would be off center from and the bleachers. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't be dead center anymore. So you'd have to. I mean, we wouldn't. I'm not going to hook my Volkswagen up to it and try to move it. That's for sure. But I mean, you know what I mean? It's like it would just be off, is what it would be.
Right.
Yeah, I know that we had talked to Jim about that. Just like, is that a consideration?
I don't know what the cost difference would be.
I don't know either.
To fix that field, to fix it or slide the field.
Right, one way.
50 feet one way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we could ask Robbie. I mean, it doesn't hurt as far as a comparison is concerned. Oh, Brian's got something. Brian, is there something else that we're not thinking about? Okay. Well, that's why you're here.
Yeah, so just to your point, Robbie, not just the bleachers and the snack palace, as they call it, but there's also the irrigation system is on the back side of the field towards the practice field.
Yeah.
So if you did slide the field back, you'd have to relocate the irrigation system.
Okay.
Not impossible, but I'm just saying it's an
I'm
additional
just saying
cost.
Cost effective.
Yeah, but then
if
you'd
it's more cost effective to fix it, we fix it.
Yeah, and then you'd
it
also
is to move the field.
yeah, and then you'd also be cutting into the practice field
Sure,
slightly as
right,
well.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
That's a good question, Robbie. Thanks, bud. What else you got, Christy? You got something? No? Okay. All right. Yeah, no worries. You're good, Matt.
Yeah, I was actually going to say if anybody needs to
Yeah, do you
sneak
we can
away,
take well, we're gonna switch to another cost center
we
if we need
are
to
going
take
to switch.
like just a
so.
quick minute or something.
3
Yeah.
minutes.
What's funny though about that field wasn't always like that. It sloped off a little bit over the years.
We'll
Oh,
take
yeah.
3 minutes.
All right.
3 minutes.
We're going to break for
I
3.
did 3 on purpose because
'Cause I
we
remember
did
that
5
used to
and
be
came
all
back
level.
in 6 last time.
tell you about this. That's good. All right, we're back on. Thanks, everybody. All right, we ready?
Yep.
I guess it's me, right? We're moving on to article or Cost Center 5 student and staff report. This is slide number 13 if you're following along at home. With that being said, Cost Center 5, as I said, student and staff report. If you, what'd I say? Support? Student and staff report. I'm getting punchy is what it is, right? It was early morning, late evening.
You woke us all up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm
Yes.
sorry, okay? I already apologized for that. All right. Cost Center 5. We skip to slide number 14. Some of the things that are included in student and staff support. Staff, there we go. Staff support staff. Guidance department staff, director of guidance, school counselors, social workers, guidance administrative assistant, health services staff, curriculum coordinator, library services staff, head librarian and library ed techs, and our technology staff, which includes our director of technology, network specialist, and IT technicians. Moving on to slide number 15, we have this nifty breakdown that Sam put together. It shows the department-based budgets and what's in each of the department-based budgets. So if you take a look, you have guidance services. If you follow that down, it'll tell you that obviously across the board, there's supplies, books, periodicals, furniture, dues and fees, employee training and development, and associated travel and travel reimbursement. But also within that, if you look for guidance services in particular, you have our assessments, field trips, SCORE, which is a SCORE software, which is a replacement for Naviance. That's post-secondary planning. And so they use that at the high school level in particular to help students with that. And then you can across the board, I won't read that all to you, but the just different budgets and what's in there for each one.
And if I may, really the purpose of that was just to draw out the specifics for each of those account clusters that are unique to them, so that you'll see them come up as we hit each grouping.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it. If we move on to slide 16, we have our PFML premiums for all staff, health insurance premium increase for all staff, negotiated increases for all staff. We do have a reduction of the data specialist position, which we have talked about earlier. That was in one of the first presentation. No, was it? Yes, it was in the first presentation last week. We have also in here our ELA curriculum. This is something that is being added to the budget that needs to be reviewed and updated. So that's English language arts. We have a conservative review of technology and supply lines and equipment lines items and an iPad lease. So those are some notes in Cost Center 5. And then last slide for Cost Center 5, which is slide number 17. You can see the comparative difference year over year. We're up $30,700. Okay. So we'll jump to the line by line for review.
All right. So for this review, you're looking at your third budget report, which says Cost Center 5, Student and Staff Support at the top. And just a breakdown of the organization of this. The departments that are covered, as Marco noted, is guidance services. Those lines are organized by school. So you'll see school-based section of accounts for each guidance services. Health services are nursing staff and related costs are district-wide. So you'll see one account cluster for that. Improvement of instruction is also district-wide. And then library services are organized by school. So you'll see the different school groupings for those accounts. And then technology is fun. Technology is by school and district-wide. So we'll go over those account clusters. I'll pause at the end of each account cluster this time since I got reprimanded earlier.
Reprimanded.
All right. So
Nicole, you're so hard, Nicole.
she runs a tight ship, you know. So starting with line 1, we are in guidance services. That is the code 2120 that you see in the middle there of those accounts. And at Carrie Ricker, we have one school-based counselor, and in line 2, one social worker. the related employer expenses for those positions run through line 16. And then lines 17 through 20 are the discretionary requests for guidance at Carrie Ricker. So minimal changes from last year to things like supplies, dues and fees, etc. Any questions about guidance services at Carrie Ricker? Go ahead, Robbie.
Bill, how many guidance counselors have we had at Oak Hill? No, how many have we had through 5?
You might have to turn it on.
Six. If you don't count one that was just like a year because they were filling in. There's been 6 since the school opened.
That's not bad.
That-
I'm not saying you've been there a long time.
That's okay. Is that your question?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We'd like to know how long you've been employed as a director of guidance at Oak Hill High School.
Well, I've been at Oak Hill for, this is year 27.
27. Thank you, Mel.
Okay, line 21 starts the guidance services based at Oak Hill Middle School. So this is a line that we have a shared position. So we have one full-time school counselor at Oak Hill Middle School, and then there's another counselor that is split with Libby Tozier. So that's a 60-40 split, which equates to 3 days at the middle school, 2 days at Libby Tozier. You'll see the same split for social work services at the middle school. So we have a full-time social worker at the middle school, and then we have a social work position that, again, is split between Libby Tozier and the middle school, 60-40. So you'll see that split come up when we get to the Libby Tozier lines. And then down to line 37 is where the discretionary lines for guidance services at the middle school begin. So those adjustments have been made this year based on requests from department staff. The furniture request was zeroed out because it was fulfilled in FY26. And a slight increase to supplies requested at the middle school. Any questions on guidance services at the middle school?
Sam, I know with our
Mike. Mike Robbie.
I know we haven't had our audit completed yet, but are we planning on, like we did last year, buying some of the stuff with our projected fund balance so we won't have to put it in next year's budget?
We've had preliminary conversations about that at A-Team. There are some things that are in play that we won't see how it will
Right,
land until we
right.
get closer to the end of the year. But we have had conversations at A-Team about a lot of the reductions that administrators had already brought forward before it even made the rounds to Marco and I, and then reductions that Marco made to those budgets that were brought forward. That's the hope, is that if there are, we've had a special ed position that has been open for the entirety of the year. We've had some other positions that have been open from time to time. We've had our fluctuations with health insurance. So
But
there's definitely things that are different from what we had budgeted.
Right,
we
and
could
there will be probably, once we get the audit done.
Yep. Yeah, and we're very close
Sure,
on that.
yeah.
So, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and
thank
we'll definitely keep finance and facilities abreast of those,
All right,
decisions as we bring them forward and seek, similar to what we did last year.
you. 'Cause it definitely impacts the budget.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
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 All right. Thank you.
Christy?
Another wonder. I don't expect answers tonight, but I'm wondering how the shared school counselors, how it's working
I
for
was
the
gonna
middle
ask
school
that.
and Libby Tozier, because originally that split was Sabatis Primary and Oak Hill Middle, and that's much closer in proximity in terms of having to split your day or those things. So I just wonder, in terms of caseload and whether or not that shared split feels like we are giving our students what they need.
Great. Noted. Thank you.
And I know you've noted it, but can you just remind me what were the two schools, Libby Tozier?
In the middle school,
middle
school.
where they have the 1.6 split for social worker and school counselor.
Thank you.
Nope, I was going to ask the exact same thing because that was new with the closure for Sabatis Primary.
Well, it's definitely a good question then if two of you are asking it, right?
Yep.
It's always been
Sure.
a split, Nicole, but it was a split
Right, but-
between SPF.
But Libby Tozier, they're younger.
Right.
They're more rambunctious.
The split at Libby Tozier and Carrie Ricker was what happened before.
Right.
So with Carrie Ricker picking up 2 grades, Carrie Ricker gained a full-time guidance counselor rather than a split, full-time social worker rather than a split, and then the remaining staff were shared between middle school and Libby Tozier.
I'm just wondering how
Yep.
it's working.
Mm-hmm.
Noted. Got it.
And then I did have an additional question regarding supplies. Do we know why it's almost doubling? 40.
I think off the top of my head, it were supplies for, I don't want to misremember it. Michaela, do you recall off the top of your head? Oh, at Carrie Ricker? 40's middle school.
We're
Yep.
what school are we in?
030. If it ends in 030, we're at the middle school.
Where are we at?
Line 40.
Oh, Michaela's coming.
Yeah.
One of my counselors did not order anything last year. So she did put in an order this year, which was much needed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
It's a
Michaela.
good
Appreciate
explanation. Thank you.
it. Appreciate it.
Okay, line 43 begins the guidance services at Libby Tozier. So 43 and 44 is where you will note that other portion of the split position. So 0.4 of a school counselor and 0.4 of a social worker. Those positions split with the middle school. The related staff expenses run down to line 58. And then you have very similar discretionary lines 59 through 63. So there is a request at Libby Tozier for the MESCA conference and associated travel for that. So guidance services and just about anything that lives in Cost Center 5 are professional development requests that we did not centralize to improvement of instruction. We kept them within their unique departments and just put instruction in the improvement of instruction employee PD requests. So slight changes to supplies requests at Libby Tozier. Questions on that cluster of accounts? Okay. Lines 64 through 77 represent the Sabatis primary guidance lines, and that obviously is closed, so those are zeroed out this year and next. And then line 78 starts the high school guidance lines. So there are a number of staff here in this department. You have a school counselor in line 78, our fabulous and tenured guidance director in line 79. We have a social worker at the high school, and then we also have an administrative assistant in the guidance office in line 81. So 4 staff members in this department, and that's why you'll see that those staff expense lines go on quite a bit longer than the other schools, because there's 4 unique salary lines. So those lines take us through line 109. And line 110 begins the discretionary lines for the guidance department at the high school. So the first one, just to clarify, professional ed services assessments, that's the fees or the monies that we set aside to pay for AP testing. So the materials and testing fees associated, we increased that a little bit from last year based on the anticipated numbers of AP tests. There are some requests for professional development for both the social worker and a guidance counselor. We are hiring for a new administrative assistant after the announcement of Ms. Kern's retirement. So that person being new to that position, we also anticipate some professional development needs for that new employee. Line 112 is where that new software, which is replacing Naviance, so not a new cost, but a new vendor, is located in that line 112 score. And this also covers the supervision services for guidance staff throughout the district. And then an increase in supplies requests in this department and some consistent requests for dues and fees and field trips. Any questions on high school guidance?
I do. Oh, go ahead, Robbie.
Sorry.
Huh? Go for
The
it.
trips that we take, Mel, like to colleges and stuff like that, does that come out of one of these lines? It does.
Yep, that is your line 120.
Okay, that's what I
In
thought.
and that line is zeroed out prior to this year. I think due in large part to the fact that Mel has always gone after the MELMAC grant and has
Mhm,
pursued additional funding that doesn't have to hit the general fund but still provided the same trips. So in the absence of that funding or that amount of funding from MELMAC, then we're supporting those
Okay,
trips through the
that's what I
general
thought,
fund.
yeah.
Yep. Nicole?
And then I was going to ask about the software. So there was a replacement, but the budget did increase. So can you explain the purpose for that software change and the reason for the increase
Come on up, Mel.
and what that software does?
Sure. So we've used Navient since 2016. It's used in all the personal finance classes that are taught. They use it for the career piece in there. They do a career interest survey, skills surveys, career clusters. So Derek and Angela use that in those courses. And then we use it to send all college application materials, transcripts through that program. There's a school search in there. So it's basically how we communicate. Students communicate where they're applying to colleges to us through that program, and then that's how we send materials. Sam might correct me, but I think it's up so much because that was left out of the budget last year. Somehow Navient didn't get put into the guidance budget. I didn't pick up on it. Lorraine didn't pick up on it. And then when the bill came in July 1st, we were scrambling.
Everybody said, "Oh no," and we figured it out.
Yeah. So I think that's part of it as well. But SCORE in the long run, I think, is close to $800 less than what we would have had for Navient once we get past the startup.
Mel, can you just remind me, what was the reasoning for the change?
We just heard from a lot of other area schools that were using SCORE. We went to a demo and, watched that demo. And just Navient's kind of changed its interface the past 2 years. Aaron and I were finding it not as user-friendly. So we just thought we would look at something new. So once we went to that and it was less money, and just hearing from our colleagues in the area.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the reminder.
Thank you.
Any other questions on guidance? So you'll notice that, Cost Center 5 has a lot of subcategories. So the subtotal for guidance is noted at the top of page 7. So guidance services are up about 50,000 district-wide, or about 5.16%. And we'll just go over that for each of the account groupings. This brings us to health services, or our nursing staff. So line 121 is our salary line for nurses. We have 4 school nurses, 1 per building. It also follows with the substitute nurse line, so we do have a small allocation for substitute nurses, and we do have our wellness coordinator stipend in line 123. The associated employer benefits and tax lines go down through 136 for those staff, and then line 137 starts the discretionary lines for health services. So line 137 specifically is where that medical director that was noted in the slides lives, that cost. And then there is some set-aside funds for 2 of our nurses to attend professional development. Line 139, the repair and maintenance within health services departments, represents the calibration for our audiometer equipment. We have zeroed out the telephone line because that was a secure fax line for our nurses that we are now covering in our existing phone system, so not doing redundant cost there. There's travel for the professional development for the 2 nurses built into this budget. The supply line is up a little bit. That was reduced drastically in a couple of previous budget cycles and is being brought back in line with more actuals. Line 145 is the equipment line for nurses. So Shelley, who oversees this department and this cluster of accounts, has got us on now a replacement cycle for our AED machines that are within the district. So we'll be replacing one of those annually. So you'll see that equipment line stay consistent until all of those are replaced and in good working order. And then the dues and fees lines for nurses represents the NASN memberships for all 4 of our nursing staff. Questions on the nursing cluster of accounts? Teresa?
We went over this last year, but could you tell us again what the wellness coordinator is, stipends, what they do?
Yeah, so that stipend position represents the initiative that we have in the district to try to increase our health and wellness for our staff. So it partners with the MEA Benefits Trust. That person partners with them to get materials and ideas for increasing wellness activities and initiatives. So they put out monthly different information about health awareness. They also put out information about utilization of health services. So this is a person that works hard to advocate for our employees to use less expensive medical treatment that fits the needs that they have at that time to try to assist in keeping our medical expenses down for our employee group. Trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, I think that covers it. You're welcome.
Is that a required position?
No, it's not a required position. We do receive matching funds from the MEA Benefits Trust when we have a wellness coordinator to support sometimes there's raffles and prizes for when you participate in the Healthy Challenges month to month.
Question that I got asked.
Mike, please.
Question that I got asked. Narcan. Are we passing out Narcan to students? I didn't think so. But that's the question I got asked. It seems every now and then it comes up as a topic because it's on the radio. And I got asked with, passing out thousands of dollars worth of Narcan. And I told them I don't think that's true, but if you call the superintendent, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to tell you what the program is.
Yeah, so the answer is no.
Right. That's what
Robbie,
I thought.
no. No, we're not doing that.
I just want to get that out there.
No, I appreciate the ask, right? Like, people need to ask those questions so that they have the correct information to work from. No problem.
Okay, any other questions on the nursing cluster of accounts? So you can see the subtotal for that grouping of accounts. We're at about $405,000, which is up nearly $30,000 from last year, which has to do with primarily staff increases and some elective changes in health insurance, just about 8% in that group. So line 147 starts our improvement of instruction lines. This is where our curriculum coordinator is primarily paid out of. So we noted last meeting that we have tried to be creative and to reallocate staff costs where appropriate to be smarter with how we're spending our funds. So the percent of our curriculum coordinator that is covered in this line is down to 78% this year. So this is partially funded in gifted and talented, which you saw last time we met, and is also partially funded by our title funds. So again, just trying to utilize our dollars in the smartest way to get our best return, even if it's a couple years out. The related benefits and tax lines for this go right down to line 159 with one exception. So I just want to draw your attention to line 154. It's kind of buried in the staff expenditure lines. It's the tuition reimbursement line. So this is the expense line that is dedicated to course reimbursement for our staff. And I think the only reason it is where it is in the organization of the accounts is because it was treated at one time as an employee benefit. So that's how the coding, landed it where it is. So this number is calculated annually. Shelley and I review the information that we get back from staff when we survey them about what their anticipated degree lane will be in the coming year, and also if they anticipate taking any course credits. So staff reply with what their intent is, and then Shelley and I review those and come up with what we anticipate the need for in the year. So you'll see that line is up $8,000 from last year, just based on the responses that we received going into this budget season. Line 160 through 167 are the discretionary lines in the improvement of instruction cluster of accounts. So line 160 is the line that we've been talking about, as we've mentioned, centralizing instructional professional development. So this is for our classroom-based staff, and we have been able to reduce this line significantly this year by being intentional and prioritizing our year 3 professionals in their evaluation cycle for professional development opportunities. So it was a little bit more all over the place in years past, like trying to honor every request that people bring forward, but just noting that this board has asked us to be fiscally responsible in every line that you see. We've just tried to put a lot of thought behind narrowing that scope by focusing on those that are in need given their evaluation cycle. Line 161 is contracted services, and this line is up quite a bit this year from last, but it's not new dollars, it's moved dollars. So we've always had monies here for our Western Maine Education Consortium VHS seats. What's new in this line is the monies for NWEA and iObservation. So those are software products that support curriculum and assessment and instruction, so they live here now rather than in the technology cost center cluster. So again, not new dollars, but moved dollars. Similarly, line 162 is a brand new line, so you'll see that it's zeroed out this current year and prior, and there's $16,000 in there allotted for IXL for the district. So again, that is not new monies. It lived in the technology instructional technology for schools line. So just moved into this cluster of accounts because that's what that software is about. Line 164 represents the associated travel for the centralized instructional professional development above. So you'll see that line up a little bit to reflect some of those monies coming in from the other cost centers where they were last year. Supplies are down in this cost center, just all of our directors and principals, again, trying hard to find places to realize savings. Line 166 is books and periodicals, and that's where the English language arts curriculum that is being advocated for new curriculum lives. So there you'll see that is up this year, but there's a lot that lives in that line apart from that new curriculum. And then line 167 represents quite a bit of memberships and dues and fees. That is not just for our director of curriculum, it's for our administrators and others. So any questions on improvement of instruction? Christy?
Could you tell us where 161, the NUIA and iObservation, and 162, IXL, which cost centers it was in technology, so we can see how those percentages compare when we get there?
I'll point out those lines when we
you.
get there. Yep. Yep, great question. Other questions on improvement of instruction? Okay. Matt, looks like you have a question.
I'll save it for technology.
So I have a question about 151, which is tuition. Shelley, can you help us understand why there's a 29% increase? Do you have employees letting you know that they're planning to take classes, all of that?
Just to clarify, I think it's 154, right?
Oh,
the
yeah.
tuition reimbursement.
Sorry, 154.
No,
I'm
that's fine.
tired.
I'm like, FICA, that's not.
154.
So 2 things. One is, as Sam said, we send out a survey and ask teachers to identify if they're going to be taking courses. We have some, first of all, I had to start using some other funds for tuition reimbursement this year because the amount that we had in there this year was insufficient. So we're sort of already over that, what we budgeted for this year. But we do have a fair number of staff members also who have conditional certificates, and that requires them to take coursework to get fully certified. So I have a better handle on the number of teachers that have coursework they have to take. And so that combined with people who might be pursuing an advanced degree, I felt like we needed to advocate for more money in that line.
Are we prioritizing coursework for those that are conditional
Yes.
ahead of. Okay.
That's what happened. I don't know, back before Christmas, I put word out that unless people were taking courses that were required for conditional certification, we were out of funds for tuition reimbursement for other things. So
Is there a cap per professional?
there is, I think in the CBA, it's 16 credits a year for a teacher.
I can check the CBA.
I'm
and
pretty
get
sure
that
it's
for you.
16
Yeah.
because I remember it was in my prior experience in another district, it was 12. So 16 was a surprise to me. But yeah, I think that's what's in the contract.
Does our CBA not require pre-approval?
It does.
It does.
Oh,
Which is
absolutely,
how,
100%.
but again,
Nicole,
so
yeah.
sent the word out saying, don't send me requests
If you're looking
unless
to
Oh,
you
see-
need it
request,
for
not for reimbursement though.
right,
Okay.
right. Because they have to
Okay.
submit the paperwork and we have
Gotcha.
to approve it first. So that was what I said. Don't send me requests unless it's for your certification.
Do we ask for that a year in advance? Or is that too
We
Yes.
do.
Do they
we,
not know?
we ask what their intentions are for taking courses. It's harder, I think, with people who are like pursuing an advanced degree because they maybe haven't fully decided. Usually teachers who are working on conditional requirements know.
Okay.
So we go based on that as best we can.
Okay. Thanks. Go
predict.
ahead, Teresa.
Could you say what CBA is for those listening?
Sure, that's the teacher's contract. Thanks. Sorry.
Collective bargaining agreement.
Which is on our website, so
Yes,
it's
it is.
available to the public.
Other questions for improvement of instruction? Okay. So the subtotal for this group, it's just over 300,000 this year, which is about 50,000 up from a prior year. But again, some pretty significant things moving into this cluster of accounts that lived elsewhere, plus the ELA curriculum, which is about $30,000, $8,000 for the increase to tuition. So there's some explanation there. Then we get into library services. So as I noted earlier, these are separated by school. So we'll start at Carrie Ricker. So line 168 is the salary for library ed tech at Carrie Ricker, and you'll note a decrease here. So again, trying to be creative and use our current staffing to the best of our ability, but the most fiscally responsible. There's a reduction here because we're repurposing that position with the mention that you had last time in Cost Center 1 of creating the STEM UA position. That allows library to not be a UA position, right? So what we're intending to do with the library position at Carrie Ricker and Libby Tozier is to reduce that. So it's a library support position, so helping in the library, organizing the library, but the primary function of that position would be to provide math intervention support through Title I. So shifting 80% of that person's salary into title funding out of the general fund. So when Marco mentioned or alluded to some staff changes that would realize some savings, even though it wasn't a reduction in force or a reduction to a position, this is repurposing a current staff member to provide a good service to students, but something that is an allocable cost in Title I. So 80% of that person can now be funded through grant funding rather than the general fund. So you'll see that in line 168 and also in the salary line for library ed tech at Libby Tozier. That was a lot of information, so I'll just pause right there and see if you have questions about that. Okay, so going down through line 176, that's where the staff and benefit lines stop for library at Carrie Ricker, and the discretionary lines start. So in each of the schools, you'll notice this purchase professional services line, which is 177 at Carrie Ricker, is where we are going to pay for the library software platform Destiny Follett, which is like the check-in, check-out system for the students. So that was formerly paid for in technology and is now split in the library 4 ways by each of the schools there. So you'll see that as a new expense. That's not new money, but moved money. and then a small increase to the request for books and periodicals at the Carrie Ricker Library, but a reduction to the audiovisual supplies request and the equipment request fulfilled this year. Questions on Carrie Ricker Library? Robbie?
What kind of books and periodicals are we purchasing as far as, I know they're probably like, reading books or new books that come out, but as far as periodicals, they couldn't be able to get that on their laptop, or we would have to pay for them on the laptop.
Yeah, it's at the younger grade levels in schools, it's predominantly books. The periodicals is more at the middle and high school levels, like subscriptions to newspapers and things like that. But each of the schools work in coordination with the head librarian to select appropriate new books to, keep the libraries up to date with their offerings for students.
But as far as periodicals, even with the newspapers, I mean, you can get that online.
Microphone.
As far as, you could get that online.
And it is online, Robbie.
It
That's
is
they
online,
are.
right?
They, yeah, you have to. I mean, I'm sure that
But
you
I
have to
know
pay
you have
for
to
a
pay for it
subscription,
for the
but
yeah.
it is.
subscription
Yeah.
online.
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
You'll see when
Yeah.
we get to the high school library lines that the databases are more robust there to support the research and access to data that the
Sure.
students need at that higher level.
Do we have more information on this actual increase? I'm a little curious about this line item because I know Sabatis Primary had a library and it was full of books, and teachers have their classrooms full of books. So I'm really curious about this particular increase.
Yep, that's a great question. Without getting into like a whole bunch of detail, remember that Sabatis Primary was grades 1 and 2. So grade 1 moved to Libby Tozier, grade 2 to Carrie Ricker, and then pre-K moved out of Libby Tozier. So there's a lot of movement of like grade levels and the students there. So there's movement of like the books that follow those students. So you'll see in the Libby Tozier lines that the books and periodicals request is actually zeroed out because of that reason, that there's books that have come in from Sabatis Primary and that are moving to different places. So filtering through those, that particular line is zeroed out.
But
I
even
can
with
get
all
you-
the movement, though, why is it up so much?
Well, I think this is one of the lines that we have reduced in years past. So if you go back to FY24, there was $6,000 in that line, and we reduced that pretty significantly in FY25 with a slight increase in FY26. So I'm wondering if it's more that it's, I don't want to speak to it without being certain. So I can get that information for you.
Okay, thanks, Sam.
I'm just going to jump in. I guess I'm concerned about lack of librarians in all of our schools. And the reason why I say that is because we live in a community without a public library. So this is often the only experience that young people have in our communities, unless their parents are taking them to Gardiner or Green, to be able to access books and learn how to research and learn how to use and read outside of what's in their classroom. So that's just something that I think we've lost because we've cut budgets when we moved to ed techs versus librarians in our elementary and middle schools. I know that our teachers have a lot on their plate, and to eliminate a librarian means that they're going to have to take on taking their kids to the library potentially. So that's just something personally that I'm aware of, and it concerns me a little bit as we think about the more access that young people have to books, the better their reading scores are going to be, the better their comprehension is going to be. And I know it's happening in the classroom, but there's something very special about a library. So I just wanted to say that out loud. But I also know that we're in tight financial times. But this is an area that does concern me.
Yeah, I would just say that, and I don't know if this will help or not, Christy, but essentially the, even though we would be reducing, the amount of time that the ed techs are in the library, they would still be there, to help students and classes, as they sign up to come in to, get books, select something that's appropriate, take a look at some new books, so on and so forth. it is different, obviously, than like having it as a true UA, right? Exactly, right? So like it's not as much time, that kind of stuff. So looking to find that like balance, you know what I mean, between like what you just spelled out was the budget, being creative, offering a new UA, that kind of stuff. But just feeling like we could still provide a library experience for kids. So I mean, again, I don't know that it helps, but it's it's just information to have, I guess.
Is there any activity with the library techs that help kids get a library card to whatever town that, like, say Gardiner? Because you could, for Litchfield, and is it green for everyone else, or Sabatis? Okay.
Yeah, I would think so.
Can you ask?
I can. Yeah, absolutely.
I know that was something we had done high school where I'm from, and middle school where the kids could get books with parent permission, sort of sign up.
Yeah, right. Like it was.
On even books on their iPad. And
yeah, like a lending library. I'm trying to think. There is a program because I know that I used to use it when I was at the high school. Libby. I can't remember what it was called, but I feel like we could check out, even as staff members, there was, we could check out books that were elsewhere, digitally, interlibrary, interlibrary, I'll throw it back. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. We can find out for you, Teresa. That's no problem.
All right. So that brings us to library services at the middle school. So that starts with line 184. There are 2 staff lines there, but as Christy noted, we transitioned away from a librarian to an ed tech at the middle school a couple of years ago. So you'll see that represented there, and continues to line 198 for the staff and related benefits lines. The discretionary lines for the middle school library start with 199. You'll see that Destiny Follett reallocation from technology into purchase professional services for the library. It will be the same split at each of the 4 schools. This professional has chosen to go to Reading Roundup, so there's allocation there for training and development and associated travel. Reduction to supplies, really consistent books and periodicals requests for next year. The furniture request from last year was fulfilled, so that's zeroed out. And then the dues and fees represent the American Library Association and the Maine Association of Library something.
Sciences.
Yeah, something. Any questions on the middle school library lines? Go ahead.
I know when students get assigned books to read, like
Use your microphone, Robbie.
oh yeah,
We need a collar one for
Yeah,
Robbie.
I do.
I'll donate my,
I
my
know
stipend.
Yeah,
A little
yeah,
lapel.
a little lapel one. I know when students get assigned books to read, like let's say they might read Tom Sawyer or whatever. All those books basically teachers have in their classroom. They're not going to the library and checking out 20 books of the same book. So I guess my point would be, I know those books, and there's plenty of books in the libraries, and as the kids get older, are we not resourcing the library as much as we should with outside books? Compared to, I mean, because I know high schoolers, they have plenty of reading.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I know my grandkids come back with library books every week.
Yeah.
They love it.
right.
But I'm thinking about, as
Middle
far
school,
as
high school
middle school,
kids.
high school,
Yeah.
all the novels that you have on
Mm-hmm.
the shelves, all the, everything, do they just sit there?
No, they
No.
don't. I mean,
It's-
let Michaela speak to the middle school.
Is
and
it
I'll-
working?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Our library is very well loved right now. We actually have teachers coming in and pulling text and putting it on rolling carts for different topics that they're using
Mhm.
so that they can have more choice. In 8th grade, Miss Simpson is doing a project, and they're doing like different genres and just getting interested in books. And she's read every single book that's on that entire shelf that kids are picking from and pulling from, and so having those book conversations. But that's just one example. There's many classes, and it's often signed out and used and well loved, and we actually inventoried our entire library, moved everything around. We're adding new shelving right now. Any text sets that aren't being used, that they have upgraded curriculum, we're inventorying and putting either in our library or recycling to other classrooms that want to use those texts. So every book is like used, having a place. There's some books that we've noticed that there's missing within text sets. So we're having to replace a lot of those right now. But what's really cool is when we work with Scholastic and do book fairs, we typically get a kickback, and then we also get a discount too. So we are using those monies as well to purchase books, and we're trying to at least do 2 or 3 book fairs a year, because that will help us increase the amount of money that they're giving back to us. But we also have magazines and stuff like that for the middle schoolers as well. But especially our 6th grade and 5th graders, they have 1 to 2 books with them at all times, like every single one of them. 7th grade, we do have a lot of readers too. And 8th grade as well. It's a smaller, I feel like sometimes it's smaller as they get older, but we do have, I think we're seeing over the years, and you know, I was an ELA teacher in my past, and as the generations come up, the love of reading has definitely come back. And you know, I did a student tour today with someone interested in coming next year, and as soon as they saw our library, their eyes lit up, and they were talking about different series that they were reading that they wanted in our library, and we checked the system to see that we didn't have that. So it's almost never enough, Robbie.
Yeah, good. That's great.
Yeah, we're workshop. We're not formal meetings, so no motions. No, we're here for the duration. However, I was going to bring that up. Well, let me ask my question first. Let's get through Cost Center 5, and then I want to talk with you or bring something up about the rest of our agenda. But I did have 2 questions. And I thought about it when Robbie was talking, and then I forgot about it, and Michaela reminded me. Do we have an inventory of every book in our district?
I mean,
for the library?
That's the Destiny Fall. It's system software that we use. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
And I mean, you also like, I'm not going to belabor it, but it's like, Robert, what you're talking about as far as like non-instructional texts, right? So, and I think about that in the sense of like, we have, many classroom sets of books that teachers use for instructional purposes, right? Novels and plays and things like that they're teaching. And it's almost like the library is like, to find books that you may be personally interested in, and there's a number of those, and those are being, updated regularly, just so that you're aware of that.
Nice. And then the second thing I was going to say, which is kind of a question, I guess, I don't know, not really, but probably in the wrong cost center now that I think about it, but Michaela brought it up, and now I thought about it. So book fair, I think that's a lovely, that is like everybody's treasured memory, right, is the book fair. So I like that we, get funds from that. I think we need to revisit our fundraisers, guys. I think we need to look at what we're setting out, the same thing every year. It's very expensive, and it's I don't know what the return is, but I think we might want to consider that. I do not want another animal slap bracelet, and I will admit,
I have one in my car right now.
I actually like that fundraiser. Yeah. I do like that fundraiser, but
because you really dig animal slap bracelets.
It's too expensive for people to actually participate. I think that's where we need to go, and maybe we can generate more revenue. So sorry, that's probably digressing, but the book fair made me think of it. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't see it in here in the cost centers.
No, it's not. But we're not in a motion, so I don't have to stay on topic.
Says the taskmaster. Okay.
Right.
So if there are no further questions at the middle school, line 206 starts the library services cluster of accounts for Libby Tozier. So this looks very similar from a staffing perspective to Carrie Ricker, almost identical, with that same reallocation and split position. Line 214 is that same purchase services for Destiny Follett that's been moved into library. No request for reading roundup here. And then this is where you'll note line 218, books and periodicals has been zeroed out for next year, just noting the large number of books that were inherited from the SPS closure and are still being, I'm assuming, organized and sifted through. There was a small equipment request that was fulfilled last year and not needed again this year. Any questions on Libby Tozier Library Services? Okay. That brings us to Sabatis Primary, so you can skip right over lines 220 to 230. And then 231 begins the library services line at the high school. So this is where our full-time professional librarian lives, and then we also have a stipend for the head librarian. So this staff member supports all of the other libraries in the district. And then if you go down to line 245, that's where the discretionary lines for the high school library services start. So again, this employee opting not to do the reading roundup professional development. Line 246 is repair and maintenance. So at the high school, the laminator lives in the library, so the service contract for the library laminator lives there as well. Line 247 is what I noted earlier, that the purchase services line at this library is more robust, representing ProQuest, info-based learning, so those subscription services for data platforms here at the high school where you don't see them at the other schools, but it does also represent the high school share of Destiny Follett. Travel reimbursement, there's a de minimis amount in there for this account cluster because this person goes between the buildings occasionally to support the other libraries. And consistent requests for supplies at the high school library. Reduction to the request for books and periodicals at the library at the high school. And then consistent dues and fees requests. Any questions about the high school library services line? Okay, so that totals the account cluster for library services. So if you look just above line 254, you'll see the subtotal for that. We're at about 166,000, which is down from last year, just over 8,000 due to that staffing adjustment. So then we start the instruction-related technology account clusters. So remember that we have these by building and district-wide for technology. So we start with Carrie Ricker. So there has been some staffing changes recommended for FY27. So I will just tell you with the technology technicians, what was staffed and why you'll see those changes through all of the schools is we had 3 full-time techs this year budgeted, and they were split between 4 buildings. So the split was 0.8 at Carrie Ricker, 0.8 at the middle school, 0.8 at the high school, and then the remaining 0.6 was at Libby Tozier. The budget that's being recommended to you has 2 technicians, and those are split between the 4 schools. So each of the school-based salary lines represents a half of an IT technician instead of the 0.8 or 0.6 from a prior year. So at Carrie Ricker, from line 254 to 261 are the staff and related benefit lines. And then what you'll notice throughout the school-based lines in technology is a significant reduction to repairs and maintenance, supplies, and equipment for technology. So you'll see that redundantly in each of those school lines. And I think Stephanie can come speak to that if she would like, but I think she's just really put a fresh pair of eyes on the department. Needs for staffing, needs for supplies and equipment, needs for, services, where things should be paid for. So that's why you're seeing a lot of shifting and moving around. Questions on Carrie Ricker? Technology? Okay. So line 266 begins the middle school technology-based lines. So very similar story to staffing. That's now a half of an IT technician that's budgeted for next year. Salary and benefit lines continuing to line 272. And again, redundant comments for the discretionary line, school-based and technology, significant reductions to supplies and equipment. Any questions on middle school? Okay. Line 277 starts the Libby Tozier tech support lines. Again, similar story with staffing, a half of an IT technician there, and those lines going to 283 for salary and benefits. And very similar reductions to repair and maintenance, supplies, and technology equipment. You will remember here at Libby Tozier, I believe we also had budgeted last year for equipment, the replacement of the PA. Thank you. PA. Thank you, Christy. Stumbling on that. It's getting late. And that's not included in next year's budget. That's done. Lines 288 through 299 are the closed SPS lines, so zeroed out. Questions on Libby Tozier? I'm sorry. Okay. Line 300 starts the tech support lines for the high school. Staffing and benefit lines through 306. And again, similar story with the discretionary line, school-based for technology, significant reductions to repair and maintenance, supplies, and technology. Given the volume of technology and usage at the high school, there's a little bit more left in the repair and maintenance lines compared to the other schools, as well as equipment. And that wraps up the school-based technology lines, and then we get into the system-wide technology lines. So this represents staffing and services that support technology throughout the district-wide. So line 311 is where you'll note the reduction of the data specialist position. Line 312 is our director of technology, and line 313 is a network specialist. So again, Stephanie has come on board and analyzed the department and the needs of the department and recognized that we had a network specialist position 2 years ago, I believe, that supported the department with an eye on maintaining the network and maintaining, I think that was in her budget summary if you read through that. And that's work that the technicians are not able to do, right? It's a new need in the department, so it's repurposing some monies to have that need met through a different position, through the network specialist position. So those salary and related benefit lines continue through line 340. And then 341 starts the district-wide discretionary lines, and these tend to be more robust than the school-based line. So we start with purchase professional services, which are things like our network service, right? So Canfield is our phone system, Blue Spruce is our network, and then Quicken represents a de minimis cost that we pay for upkeep of our student activity accounting software. There's a similar amount to, or the same amount for employee training and development. And then contracted service, there's kind of a selection of what's included in that line, eCollect, Aptigee, asset management through Frontline, Jamf software, Verkada, Reach My Teach, Fortinet. I read those with authority, even though I don't know what most of them do.
Can I just quickly say I'm just 341. We talk about purchased professional services. The reduction that's there, if I remember correctly, is the server itself. Is that correct?
Yeah.
No.
So
No. Stephanie's in the back saying no.
not the server.
So basically, I took a look at what our needs were for firewall and our VPN services, and significantly reduced the cost of our firewall. So we had something that was a little more than what we needed for our district. So we're going to be reducing that, and the support for that will be less year over year.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Based on our size and our staffing, we needed a Toyota Camry, and we had like a Mercedes-Benz. So is that accurate? That's the analogy that's stuck in my head. So I feel
There's nothing wrong with either one of those
I'm glad
vehicles,
that
by the
one's
way.
stuck
both
for
great
you.
vehicles.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd take a GMC pickup.
Just don't say both.
$100,000 today.
Yeah.
Robbie
No,
would
no,
like a
you're not
GMC
wrong.
pickup,
You're
he
not
said.
wrong. Absolutely. So line 345, this is the instructional technology for schools line. So this is the line that a fair amount of programs and offerings have moved into different cost centers. So Christy, this was the question that you asked earlier, right? So some of these programs have been reassigned to instructional software line at the high school because they were specific to programming there. Some have been reassigned to improvement of instruction. They were specific to programming there. And it's just a continuation of what we've done in the past, because in years past we've had our accounting software that lived in the technology lines, but really it's a fiscal services software program. So for the last several years it's lived in the fiscal services line. So just continuing to clean things up and put them where they belong. Did you have any questions about that, Christy, before we move on? Okay.
Mike?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
Follow the money.
I mean, I will say, like, with all services, some of these products have come in with increases over last year, like you would expect, right? So it is not a dollar for dollar change. What the exact differences are, we would have to drill down and get that detail for you. But I don't believe we've brought in new. We've either replaced or maintained and just budgeted for or planned for what the projected estimated increases for those things are. And they've just been allocated to the proper place.
I just think for the public that isn't as into the weeds as we are, looking at percentages and seeing a big decrease makes people feel like we've cut something where maybe we actually haven't. It's just moved. So I'm just trying to be as transparent as possible so people can kind of understand that when they see, for example, the PLA, whatever it is, it's like 400 and something percent. When people look at that, they're going to freak out if they don't know the information. So just trying to get ahead of that so there's not misinformation of like, oh, the school board's being sneaky and saying that they've cut cost center 5 when they actually increase cost center 6, sort of thing.
Yep. Nope, that makes sense.
Go ahead, Teresa.
Line number 346, the iPad lease rental. What grade or grades is that for?
Sure. So that is actually iPad lease and a laptop lease rental that's combined. The iPad lease is for the high school, so switching from Chromebooks to everyone have one streamlined device, partly because of total cost of ownership, simplifying spare parts inventory, the services that's required to work on that, and the knowledge base on different devices and the software. And then, so that would be high school, and then the other half of that lease is for laptops for the teachers. They have 2020 Intels, which are 6 years old, and they are at end of life. They will not continue to do a major OS update, so they will need to be updated this year.
So for line item 346, is it all teachers in the district or just the high school?
All teachers in the district.
And then grades 9 through 12.
Correct.
And what happens to the Chromebooks that the high school kids currently have?
So with that, I included in your packet a little cost summary between how much it costs to own a Chromebook and how much it costs to own an iPad. The return on investment for iPad this year alone has brought in $10,000. Chromebooks at the end of life are recyclable, unfortunately. We also need to keep a 30% spares for Chromebooks, where we only need to keep a 10% spares for the iPad.
So are we selling the Chromebooks?
We
won't be able to, right? Because they're just recyclable.
We will do what we can with those that we have. We will have some that are usable, so those will be able to be offered up as surplus and follow that process.
can we get a list of all of these technology softwares that are mentioned here? We have 341. You did touch upon a couple of them. 341, 343, 345. I mean, you probably didn't watch last year, so it's no secret that these technology and software apps are like where I zone in, because I get lost with them. And I feel like there's just too many. And like we had Edu Rooms last year, and like it fell flat. Like I don't even know Marco uses it for us, for his, communications. But I'd like to see like what a list of all of them.
Sure.
And what they're used for.
Absolutely.
Oh, and how often? Yeah. Yeah.
Like whether or not people are clicking and using them. Like, are they valuable?
Sure. I can go over that now if you want.
All of them? I mean, it
all.
says et cetera too. So is et
I
cetera
got it
true
all.
or?
I got it all.
Do
It's up to
you
you,
really?
Nicole. Or I can
You've
just
got
give
it
you-
right there.
Yes. Or I can give you.
I think you could just submit it as a data
'Kay.
request. I appreciate
Absolutely.
that though. Thank you. And Teresa mentioned too. And is the cost involved associated with that listed there for each one?
For
Are they?
yeah, I could yeah. I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
That's great.
Just wanted to be prepared.
That's awesome. I don't think we're mentally prepared for that.
No, roll through it right now.
Line by line.
Oh yeah, right.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, it sounded like you were.
Yeah, it sounded like you were.
There we go. All right. That was actually a question I had tabled from earlier that I was going to ask. But it was what I was going to ask is a little bit broader than that too. Not just the technology, like the programs on the tablets and computers and whatnot, but also any other subscription-based stuff that we're paying, whether it be association stuff or
Sure.
might not be related just to technology either. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I will tell you, I took a very, optimization approach to this technology budget, and looking at what we were paying for, let's say, a filter, and could we combine that filter with another service that we were paying for, like Gaggle. So those alone, one is $10,000. The other is $6,000. Can we combine those in something that will cost us less? The answer is yes. So something that you'll see from last year might be Jamp Safe Internet, and this year you would see in the replacement as Securely. And same, that would also replace Gaggle with Aware. So that's the mental health awareness software. So I tried to find cost savings where I could combine instead of just, we pay for this one and then we pay for that one.
That's awesome.
Appreciate your hard work, Stephanie. Thank you.
All right. So, did you have another question?
No, I was going to ask if there's any other questions.
Okay.
I have something.
Okay.
I know in the past when we first started the one-on-one program, I know we got a report from each building what the technology was being used for in the classroom. I'm not asking for that right now, but is there any way that we could have a presentation on that?
Sure.
So I know probably each classroom might be a little bit differently on how they use their device or what they're using it for. But can we get a presentation, maybe highlights of what they're doing and what, from pre-K all the way up through 12?
Yeah, I will say one of the asks from the teachers and the tech coaches that I have is for professional development for the iPads, which is something that I feel really confident and strongly in doing with them. This year has really, for me, been about taking a look at where we can cut costs and save money because you asked for zero. So wanted to make sure that was top priority. And then next year and this year, I've been working with the coaches on doing some kind of like train the trainer thing so that they can stand in front of their schools and give training on the iPad, especially for accessibility, for making books, making podcasts, things like that. At the high school, what you'll see more of is them using the Chromebook for writing essays and things like that.
Okay, I just like to be able to have that
Sure.
presentation so that way there we can, people want to know what they're, what it's being used for. I mean, we're spending a significant amount of money on the one-on-one program. I just want to make sure that people understand that we run the gambit with that from pre-K all the way up through 12.
Sure thing, Robbie. Appreciate the ask.
Okay. So 346 is where we left off. We have just a few lines further to get through. So a couple of years ago, we established cybersecurity insurance. So we're maintaining that as a safety measure. That's line 347. We have line 349. You'll notice a pretty substantial reduction there. That telephone line represents the hotspots that we have traditionally year over year offered to students who have limited internet access or in access at home. So what we've done in years past is just get a bunch of them, get them activated, and then hand them out as they're needed. But what we would like to do, again, to try to be fiscally responsible, is to bring the number of hotspots that we are going to commit to back in line with what we've been actually using, not like what's just been a standard number that we've used, and also to activate them as they're needed. So as they're requested, the turnaround time will be a little bit different, not egregious, but the request would come in, then we would activate the hotspot so that we're only paying for it for the stretch of time that it's needed, not for the entirety of the year if it's not needed right away. So adjustment there in 349. Consistent budget lines for the rest of the 900 section, 350 and 351. And then you'll notice that there are 3 lines that are specifically for central office. So we've never had set aside funds for technology at the central office. It's always just kind of come out of the district-wide lines, but we do have a different physical plant. So we added those codes to be specific and to be allocated for repair and maintenance, supplies, and equipment needs that come up at the central office for technology. So all told, for instruction-related technology, that particular group of accounts is down, close to 100,000. So down 93,000 from FY26, almost 12% in reduction. And then Cost Center 5, which is all of those different account groups that we've reviewed tonight, in whole is at 2.6 million and up about 30,000 from last year. So again, it's a lot of different things, but just in summary, you've got a position reduction, a position reallocation, a split position that is now partially funded through Title with the budget that you're looking at. Title funds, you have the English language arts curriculum being added in. You have a lot of shifts and changes from technology, and then just a huge amount of reductions to the discretionary school baselines for technology as well, in summary, for that amount.
All right. Let's talk this agenda. Let's talk through it. You wanna
What?
Talk through it?
I'm, I'm happy to do. I mean, you're the board chair. You tell me what would you like to talk about?
I want to know if we think that we should continue with 6 and 7, or if we have wiggle room to do just 6, or do we want to do neither? But looking at the calendar, is that going to cause us any issues or concerns? Understanding that we have a regular board meeting next week, and I don't know what we have agenda-wise yet because we don't meet until tomorrow. The following week is a workshop, so I don't know if 6, 7, 8, and 9 are too much to try to get through in one night. And then we have, 5, 6 is our deadline to have an approved budget.
So on the schedule that we've drafted, you have April 1 is a set-aside meeting that says if necessary.
Okay.
So what we can do is try to take a look at what remains and revise the remaining, dates that we have after today to see if we can squeeze it all in. Otherwise, we would need to meet on that April 1st, I would say.
Yeah, I'd like to make a suggestion that we table the rest of the agenda tonight and move 6 into our meeting next week and add 7 to the workshop.
Yeah, or we could.
We could. The other thing that we could do too, Robbie, is we could try to just like you said, try to squeeze it in. Do you know what I mean? Like see how it goes next week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, we could play it
Play
by
it by
ear, but
ear.
we
It's
could
fine.
we could at least definitely schedule 6.
Yeah, I mean, or you guys could just say we're done tonight, and Marco and I can take some time when we're not super tired to figure out.
Yeah,
how
that's
to
what I think.
organize stuff too. Because
this is not my best
Totally
thinking
fine.
at almost.
Well, I also
9:30
wonder
at
our
night.
next workshop, could we start it at 6 or 5:30?
So that was going to be my next thing. I was going to ask that as well.
Totally.
Chrissy, if there is a
So you're saying the
ab-
board
ability to do
so
a 5:30 or 6 o'clock start time.
you're talking about for the board budget
For
the
our
workshop,
workshop.
not the school board meeting.
No. Correct.
Right.
The
Yeah,
workshop
18th. That's it's
scheduled
no issue as
for
long
March
as we
18th.
as long as we put it out there. You know what I mean ahead of time.
Because then we'll it would only be 8:30 if we had started at 5:30. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's still 3 hours, but you start crashing after a certain
Yeah.
hour.
So that means instead of
Yeah.
I know. I was just telling that time.
These numbers hurt my head after a while, guys. So.
Yeah, so
what do
that's
you all want to
no
do?
issue what's
I don't need a motion. I don't need a vote. What do you want to do?
I don't think
we
it's
should
fair
end
to
it.
the next two cost centers for us to be tired because we can't give them the attention that we gave the other ones.
That's what I'm worried about. Like, I don't want to breeze through it. I don't want to.
That's been up all night.
Oh my goodness! You need to get home.
Let's go.
Let's go. I'm running on pure adrenaline.
And if it's okay with the group, just so we can curtail and end, I'll go over the data request with Marco to pass on to Nicole to see if we missed anything, so that we can just go.
I have no.
Well, nice. That was a nice one. All right. Yes, we will do that. And if you come back next time and there's nothing and you're missing a data request that you submitted, and we don't have to officially adjourn. It's a workshop. Thank you, everybody.